right, welcome everybody to the debut of a new series and new channel, the Society of Main Characters. You can see another main character over here, David from Abnormal Voyages. David, how are you
Evening,
doing?
everybody. I'm doing great. How about yourself, sir?
Doing very well. Very excited for this new adventure we're gonna partake in. Uh,
Absolutely. I can't wait to see how many people we're going to have up here in the main character lounge tonight here in the society.
Yeah, and I know you guys might be wondering, what does this mean of our channels? Obviously, David hosts the wonderful Abnormal Voyages. I'm from Cool's Paranormal Studios. Absolutely nothing. You'll still get everything there. Just think you'll
It
just get
means
extra
nothing.
content. Yeah. Nothing's changing there. You guys are still going to get the same content you're used to there. This is just another channel for us to talk about things that perhaps don't fit what we're doing over there, or we just have so much content now we need a second channel. And it's
Exactly.
kind
This
of
is kind of like the way we explained it. It's like each of our individual channels is kind of like we're the different characters from Marvel, and then this is where we come together as the Avengers. So it's going to be a wild ride. We got a bunch of great people coming in, main characters from all over our little multiverse, and I'm excited. I don't know about you.
oh no, I'm super excited. It's always fun. Obviously, you guys are all my friends, so it's fun there anyways. But to work with other fun content creators that know what they're doing and have a passion for this, it's exciting to build something from scratch. And I definitely think 2025 is going to be very exciting for everyone watching. Now,
Oh,
this is
absolutely.
this is coming live tonight from Cools. We might do the first couple live here, but eventually it's going to start going live on that channel. The archive will be there, and we might have some exclusive content this week over there as well. So you never know. You might want to go
Yeah, check
check
it
it
out.
out.
We'll definitely we'll have the link available, and as Keegan mentioned, we're going to kind of slow drip, kind of a transfer over there. So you'll still be able to get both all the content here for a while as we slowly transition to the other channel, and then you can hang out wherever you want to find us.
Yes, and we will actually have another fun announcement at the end of the episode about another place you can come hang out with us and talk with us. So stay tuned. Now, David, what are we talking about in our main character lounge tonight?
So, we are kicking everything off with something that we have never really done on any of our channels, which is going to be appropriately, we are the Society of Main Characters. So, where do you find main characters more than in a book? They've been around for forever, wonderful stories. And tonight we're going to dive into one together. So, we are doing our very first kind of book club meeting and bringing the society together to dissect the Midnight Library.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see the conversations we're going to have. I know some of us may have been kind of conversing as we were reading, so definitely excited to see what kind of topics are discussed, maybe what themes and stuff like that. Now, as per usual, the books we choose are either recommended by our group members or eventually, hopefully, by you guys watching. So if you guys have fun books you want us to talk about in the Society of Main Characters, post a comment, let us know, and we'll definitely get to it. But tonight, this one was brought to us by who?
I believe this was recommended by a founding member of the society, Mr. Nicholas, who is waiting to join us right now.
Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing, sir? Welcome in.
Doing well. I like that you called me a founding member.
I mean, this is the first episode, and you're here, so I
And
say
I
founding member.
recommended the book, so like here
Well,
we
look
go.
at that. You're like the cornerstone now. You know.
This channel won't be the same without me.
Agreed. It'll be much better. I mean, oh.
Oh wow, wow. Okay.
But yes.
Okay, you're gonna do me like that. Okay.
Well, we're gonna bring in the other guest for right now, but in just a minute, since you did recommend the book, we would love to hear what made you recommend this. So be thinking about that. All right.
Okay.
All right. So Keegan, who else do we have waiting in the wings to come on in?
Well, we also got Grayson here. Grayson, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm ready to pontificate on literature, gentlemen. I'm doing fantastic.
Hold on. Is that the reigning fantasy football champ?
You can't see me now, you do.
That is it. Wow. We are pulling out all the stops. All the superstars are here tonight.
Multifaceted. literate
I should've.
sports fan. Let's just go. We got it all.
Hey, we
How are
got
you?
everything covered. Next up, we got James Townsend from the Billy the Kid Historical Coalition. James, how are you?
How's it going? It felt a lot more epic being brought onto this platform after you put it in the perspective of the Avengers assembling.
Exactly,
So,
right?
yeah,
That's what we're
I
doing
feel
here.
it feels pretty intense now.
Good. I'm very glad you can join us. We've needed somebody that actually knows history. Keegan's usually just half making it up, so good to have a real
I know
historian.
I catch him in lies all the time.
Whoa, James.
Mhm.
Is this because we found the
Mr.
dead body at
T-Rex.
the one place? Oh yeah, yeah. That is they all heard about that poor T-Rex drawing as well. Believe me. And last but definitely not least, we got Nolan.
I think you mean the wizard Sky Rizzy.
Exactly. I was going to say, therefore, you must refer to me as the Wizard Sky Rizzy if you intend to address me all at once, all together, like a Tribe Called Quest. Okay, guys? All right. Now that we got that out of the way. I just want to say, I didn't notice, Grayson, that your shirt was purple and turtlenecky, but you're looking kind of like Alec Baldwin in The Shadow or whatever. No. Is it The Phantom? It's giving Phantom vibes.
As long as we keep any prop guns away from him, I think we'll be all right.
And see, I was
I can't
thinking he
guarantee
looked more
anything.
like. I was thinking he looked more like a young Jeff Goldblum.
Ooh.
Oh,
Young
yes,
Jeff
yes,
Goldblum.
yes. Literature, libraries, and midnight. What does it all mean? It comes together, comes apart. It's crazy. It's chaos, if you will.
But of a good kind.
Was that actually from Chaos?
I mean, that's the whole Jurassic Park thing is chaos theory. So
All right, so it looks like we have our Avengers assembled for this first episode here. So we're going to turn it over to Nick. Let us know, man, what drew you to the Midnight Library and made you want to throw this out there as the first thing we cover?
Oh, so this book was actually recommended to me by a friend of mine. It wasn't really recommended to me, really. Her name is Emma. She wanted to send it to an ex-boyfriend of hers for him
Okay.
to read, and I was, and in an attempt to get her to not do that, I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I read it?" And she was like, "Sure, go ahead." So I took her copy, read it. I gave it back, and then I don't know what she did with it after that, but after I read it, I really greatly enjoyed it, and I've been recommending it to other people since.
All right. Well, then I guess half credit to Emma for getting us this book tonight. And I hope things worked out with or without the ex-boyfriend.
Well, they're no longer together, and she's with someone new, so things have worked out for the best.
Is it you? Is she with you?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
No,
Just like
no,
maybe this is
man.
all an elaborate, you know.
No. I have been single for 7 years, going on 8, so we'll see how that works.
Well, that sounds like a completely different episode, but we'll dive into that another time.
Best 7 years of his life right there.
All right. Awesome. Well, then, did you want to kind of break down the book a little bit for us, Nick? Just maybe a quick synopsis of what it's about, just to kind of refresh everybody, and then we can kind of see what we all thought.
Okay, yeah. It's a story where this woman named Nora Seed, it's in the beginning of the book, she decides that she wants to take her own life, and right at the moment where she goes to do that, she is transported to the Midnight Library, the titular library of the book, where it's filled with all these different books of all the different lives she could have lived.
All right. And then the book just kind of goes through her living through these different lives, correct?
Yep. Has her going through multiple different lives, and even talks about it in one section about all the different lives she did live.
Absolutely crazy. Well, Keegan, I think you said you had sort of a format of some discussion questions we could do, huh? We can't hear you, sir.
Keegan.
yeah, I got some questions written down. First, I want to go back to Nick because this plays a lot with philosophy, maybe some psychology. Nick, you obviously went to school for psychology. So do you want to break down the psychology of the book?
I mean, I always find it awkward when people ask that kind of question because I don't think in the terms of psychology anymore because I don't use it. But like, obviously, the book touches on like depression and like regrets and other sort of mental abnormalities, as we call them, or mental illnesses, and it's kind of the main catalyst, I would say, for the book is mental health issues. So that's the main catalyst for the story of the book, at least.
Now, I mean, obviously, we're open to discussion. Did anyone else see like philosophy or psychology stuff popping up?
Oh, I think the whole thing was very filled with a lot of different kind of philosophical, especially the fact that she was big, the character herself, into philosophy. That definitely cropped up a lot. Um, I mean, with philosophy, nobody's ever right or wrong, of course. It is very much a point of view thing. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the philosophy that maybe this Nora did, but it is one of those things that I think it was very interesting the way that it impacted the story.
Yeah, I was definitely gonna say it's very heavily laced like within the book, especially the character being uh quite into philosophy as well. At least like in her main life, if you will. I noticed there was a huge lack of it in a lot of her other ones. And it was just always kind of like funny, like when she'd bring up she'd say something and they're like people like look at her all confused, like, what? And she's like, oh, it's like philosophy or whatever. But when did you do philosophy? Like it's just so it's like her main life was like heavily drenched in philosophy and one of her like main loves or whatever, and like every other ones that she did attend or whatever had very little or anything to do with being philosophical or having ideas like that. So
It's almost like she would bring it up and they'd be like, "You know how to read?"
right, yeah, it was like you know how to, yeah, that's pretty much the feeling that I got a lot of the time was like, oh, what? You know how to read? Like, yeah, that's exactly the feel that they kind of
Yeah.
gave. Like, what? Looking at her
Yeah.
funny. So
Well, and in some lives too, it's like, whoa, when did you actually have time to go do that? Because in some of her lives, it's like she's super busy doing all this stuff. They're like, when did you do that? You know?
right,
I feel like it was only the one towards the very end, the one that she almost stayed in, where she was actually a professor that had taught philosophy and such and was writing the book about it, really seemed to be the only other one that she was really involved in, like philosophy as a main part of her life besides her own life.
right. Yeah, that's crazy though. It's just like how that works out, or just like everybody else being like, yeah, when did you have time to do philosophy?
So
Interesting.
I'd be kind of interested in everybody's opinions because they don't really spell this out fully. Since you brought up psychology, was the library completely in her head, or was this a real place and thing that happened? Did all of this happen imaginary, like through her mind, or was it an actual out of body event in different lives and such? What do you guys think?
I will say, if I can, I think it definitely happened inside her own head, I would say. Part of it for me is the fact that MDA is a very heavily released substance in your own body upon the time of death. So she could have definitely been imagining a lot of things from it. But as far as the story of the book goes, it was definitely a real place. And as we got to see in the book, we met another character, a couple other characters who have their own version of the Midnight Library. So as far as the story of the book goes, it's a real place.
Yeah, I kind of pictured it like purgatory almost in a way. Just a place where you got stuck, especially if you died and you hadn't completed everything. Or obviously, a big thing about this book is like regret and acceptance and stuff like that. So without acceptance of some of those regrets or choices she wished she made, she wasn't able to actually move on to the afterlife, which, you know, spoilers kind of gave her a shot at something else, you know?
Yeah, I like to personally believe that it is a place that existed. Like when she met the Hugo guy, he was like kind of like explaining it or whatever. I don't think it was in her head. I like to think that it's like a
Like she really did travel the multiverse, basically.
right, yeah, that it was like some version of a multiverse, like multi something or other kind of like situation. I just because it is, I think it's cooler to think about it that way. instead of thinking about it of like, oh, she just kind of concocted this like in her head or whatever, right?
Right.
But also it's like that, like the mystical like aspects of it work better, I think, when you think of it that way, right? Because it's one of those ones, it's like because like when she jumps into a different version of herself or a different life, like all these things have like happened, right? Like around her already up until like that point. And it's one of those ones that like, I don't think your brain can fully flesh those out. You know what I mean? Like
Like it's a little too much for you to just
it's like
up.
a little bit too much for your brain to like make up or whatever, right? Like for, you know what I mean? Because like you can daydream all day long about like, oh man, if I did this, I could be this and be a rock star and all that kind of stuff. But like realistically, you're not gonna fully know until you're like there. So
especially all the little details and like the more technical aspects that you wouldn't have even thought to be like, what about this? Or
Well, and I say that because like I'm sure most of us have had dreams before. But it's also one of those things that explains why we can't have but in our dreams, why we see people that we recognize or look, because our brains apparently can't make faces.
Yeah, I've heard that everybody you ever see in a dream is a face you have seen, even if you don't remember it.
And whether it's one of those things, like if I see you in a dream, David, like, you know what I mean? I know you, I've talked to you, I've seen your face. You can definitely be in one of the dreams, right? Mm-hmm. Now, somebody else that you don't really like recognize or notice, but your eyes and the way your brain perceives things is like you can still like see something, but not see something, right? Like you're not
right, like your subconscious files it away,
right?
But
your brain goes, "Oh, that's a face."
Look at that person.
Yeah, so your brain's like, "Oh, that's a face," and it just fills in like little holes. That's why it's like really random sometimes when you see like people that you know and then like people that you don't.
I mean, especially with like TV and movies and stuff, there's so many thousands upon thousands of faces that we see that we don't even register,
that you don't recognize or you weren't really looking at or paying attention to. Yeah. But yeah, so it's one of those things, like I'd like to think that it was like a more of a mystical thing from like that aspect of like the way the brain works and stuff like that, like couldn't fully flesh out an entire life for you. Plus it just sounds cooler when you go, oh yeah, there's like this cool like mystical force that kind of keeps you, in limbo, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like the library being like a hub.
Right. Yeah.
Sending you out into like string theory kind of multiverses going on.
Although I will say I like the fact that it has like personal touches, to where it's like the one dude had like the VHS store, you know what I mean? Like it was like a Blockbuster essentially. And hers was like a library with, you know what I mean? Like her librarian, like friend. I thought that part was cool that it did have little personal touches.
I had an idea that we could all ask a question that was very inspired by the book. And now that you've brought that up, that was going to be my question to everybody. If this happened to you, what do you think your personal like hub would be of your other lives, your other experiences that you would go out on? With me thinking about it, I think, and maybe this sounds cliched with what it is, but I feel like my personal one would probably be an airport. I think there would be like a big board with like the different flights that you could take. Yeah. And then each plane as you boarded it would, you would be landing in the other life or whatever. I feel like with as much as I like to travel and things and seeing the world, that's probably what my hub would be a big airport of different terminals and stuff that each one is going to represent the different kind of lives that I could have taken.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think.
I mean, mine would probably be the Sears Tower, like if I'm being completely honest.
In Chicago, right?
Yeah,
like
in Chicago.
Like the elevator, like taking you to different floors?
Yeah, and you go up different floors and you can see different lives or stuff out the windows or whatever.
That's pretty cool.
Maybe a museum. I mean, because I love museums, so maybe the Field Museum also in Chicago.
So maybe like different exhibits or something would be like when you go to this wing and okay.
What about Nick? You brought us the book. What's your midnight library?
My midnight library would probably be more like a game store, like a GameStop kind of thing. Like each video game would be a different life. Just because I do like playing video games. I play video games a lot, so each game being a different life would make sense.
Honestly, that'd be super cool to walk through and see like the different covers of like what the lives could be.
Or another one for me would also be like maybe like a guitar center. Each guitar being a different,
like different instruments and stuff.
Different instruments or different guitars being different lives for, like this song of life or whatever.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. What about you, Mr. James?
I think one of the things that gets me into history is the aspect of time travel and of touching artifacts and things like that. And I think for me, it would be probably an antique store with all the different booths having artifacts from the different lives, and you just walk through the aisles and peruse the different
I
booths
like
in the
that a
antique
lot.
store. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. Kind of like a physical eye to be like, I wonder what the story
Yeah.
behind this, and then you just kind of get sucked in. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like
Exactly.
that also like covers like a couple lines. You know what I mean? Just because it's like antique stores. I'm a big like spiritual person, so it's one of those ones like antique stores kind of like make me feel funny like when I go in there, just because it is
Yes.
one of those things like there's a lot of weird energies and a lot of like odd stuff. Like it's interesting to go into there and like kind of peruse and see like what kind of vibes and energies you get from like antiques like that. So it's like there's just like a couple
Absolutely.
levels to that one in the antique store, man.
It's
Kinda-
almost like a tiny piece of people's souls when you're in there. You know?
Right. A little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. It's very odd. It's a weird feeling.
Grayson?
Honestly, mine would probably be a restaurant, or just like that's probably what it would be. Just like a little pop-up
I
little
kinda-
shop. Like a
Yeah, I
food
kind
shop
of
or
like
something
that. Just like
Yeah.
whatever you order, different meal numbers and stuff.
Exactly. Like it'll be, my thought is I'm a huge food guy. I love cooking. I love food. Always, been a huge part of my life. But
Same.
honestly, like each meal, honestly, I could see it kind of being more like the book where like it's like either what you eat or it's your favorite meal of that life. And then like if you like see something that you don't really want that's on the menu, you can obviously avoid that. But whatever you're eating, it pops you in the moment that you're eating that in the alternative life.
There's a lot of cool ways you could go with that too. Like the dessert stuff, maybe it'd be like a really sweet life, like you're really wealthy and taken care of, but there's
Yeah.
not a lot of substance to it or something.
Doesn't make you really full.
Exactly.
If you really wanted to
yeah.
get like
Gives you
super
diabetes. Yeah.
analytical with it. Yeah.
Right. Like there's a lot of interesting, and then like the spice of life, things like that. Like there's definitely a lot of directions you could go. I gotta say, I'm really glad that nobody was like, it would be on Netflix. I would just, scroll through the movie.
Can I change my answer?
Right.
That wouldn't work because of the fact that you can't go back to the same series.
It would be
how many of
YouTube.
us How many of us rewatch like the same shows over and over again? Like right now, I'm
I
rewatching
do.
The Rookie.
I feel personally attacked right now, Nick.
Look, I was gonna say,
I'm
yeah,
in the
break,
same
right?
boat. I rewatched. Like I'm rewatching The Rookie. I've rewatched How I Met Your Mother several times.
So
Like, I couldn't do a Netflix or a Hulu because I'd want to rewatch.
I have to admit,
everything.
if it wasn't an airport, my next one, it would probably be something like an old-fashioned looking movie theater,
Interesting.
which is kind of close to that, but something like I think that'd be really cool. I feel like, not knowing like what movie it was, you just kind of walk in and you're like immersed in it. I feel like that'd be kind of cool, but it'd have to be like an old school theater, not one of these like more modern ones. It's those ones with like a lot of character in it. I feel like that would be, and like when you go in the halls, maybe it's like just an endless hall of the different theaters that are open for you to go into. I feel like
I'm thinking like I'm the way I picture that, the way you say that, it was like an Alamo Draft House.
kind of like
it's
that.
always, because Alamo Draft Houses always have like flavor, like in them, like they're very like they're
like very unique. Yeah,
very
the
unique,
posters are
yeah.
always like weird movies, and yeah, maybe you'd even see
absolutely.
you'd see like movie posters of different scenes from the possible lives, but you'd never really know like which one it was. But they'd be like, when is that gonna happen? Stuff like
Right?
that. I feel like that'd be kind of cool.
Yo, I heard that this sequel sucks.
Yeah, they're really
David, I
jumping the
was
shark in
between
this
that
one.
and the restaurant where I thought like some of the AMC theaters just have vague titles where if you don't really like look at what you're going into, it's just like the happening or the occurrence. You just pop in there and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. But let's just see what happens.
Like
Yeah,
the
you're just
Lord
like, I
of the
guess I'll
Rings.
give it a shot. Whatever.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Rings, The Force Awakens. I have no idea what's happening in those ones.
Interesting.
And we've just discovered why Nick is not usually with us on our pop culture talks.
It's because I'm busy. I don't know when they are.
I have a life. Jeez.
It's unfortunate.
I have two jobs outside of this. Come on.
Excuses, Nick.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds made up.
I also don't know when they are. Keegan doesn't inform me of other chats.
Well,
I know when the
now that
sports
we
chat
have,
is because it's on Tuesdays, but I'm normally busy on Tuesdays.
well, it's okay. Now that we have a better system for getting information to everybody. Hopefully we'll see you around a little more.
Hopefully, I know I won't be able to join for Goosebumps because that's on Wednesdays, but
Well, that's okay. When we start Daredevil, maybe we can move it to another night and get you in there. But yeah, back to Midnight Library. We've talked a lot about the concept. I think everybody's kind of understood that. What are some things that you didn't like about the book? Keegan, I know there was actually a very big point from you with consent and the other lives and such. Do you wanna maybe start with that?
It's an interesting direction.
Yeah, no. So at some point during the book, I was reading it, and it just kind of clicked that. So the sliders or whatever you want to call them, they kind of just take over a body, and then when that person wakes up, they don't know where they are or whatever. And there was the scene where she's with the other guy that is also a slider. And then she just like leaves. So now he knows how it works. So he's just like, man, I was that bad that she left.
Yep. She leaves in the middle of sex. I laughed at that part.
But also,
yeah,
that poor lady's gonna wake up and not know why she's in that bed with that dude and think like something bad happened. He's gonna go to jail. The slider's gonna leave the life, and then bam, that poor guy is in jail. He has no idea why. I don't know.
And I know they said that like your brain kind of like fills in gaps. So is he going to come back to that life and be like, oh, I date raped a girl in the Arctic? Like,
well, I think that's when you go, well, this is disappointing. And then you go back to your video store. Like you're boom, done. Nice and easy.
Yeah. But then the guy that he took over,
that guy's his life is
the normal life guy.
Okay,
he's going to just show up and be like, I guess I was terrible this past week.
Yeah. But also there's the big TED talk she has where she just like fumbles it and like burns it down. And I was like, man, that poor lady like worked her whole life up, and now what happened? Nothing. Like none of her sponsors are going to want to come back. Like all these people are going to be like, she was a fraud.
I will say I hated that part of the book. The fact that she remembered nothing of that life when she came into it till like way later on, that she just basically comes in as a new person. I was like, God, that's so frustrating.
Yeah, and having to research yourself every single life. Yeah, that part of it would be exhausting.
Like I know in the last life she started getting the memories, which I thought was cool. I did like that she was finally getting some of that. I wish that when she got there, they would have started immediately like bubbling up, and she kind of had like her normal self and her new self like both in there as she slowly, picked between them. But I hated the fact that it was just a completely new person basically every time. And she's just like, I don't know what to do.
Well, I think that's part of it, right? Because it's like one of those things that like, I think that I agree with that statement, David, of like, I didn't like that bit for the simple fact that it's like she's there essentially to learn about that life, right? Or to learn like she made this decision, like but she is confused the entire time. Like, I feel like you're literally not learning anything.
Right.
Like,
you're not really getting to see what that life would be like because you don't know any of the experiences or memories.
And I feel like that's an experience essentially wasted, because that's exactly it. Like, you have to sit here. She has to sit here for 15 minutes or whatever, like Googling herself and being like, oh, like, oh, this is my life. Like, what is my life? Like, what is this? And it just was one of those ones that it felt kind of funky like that, of like, it's like, you're supposed to be here to like learn things or to like kind of see what this life would be like, but you really don't get a chance to. I think for me, like, part of it is
you get to like play pretend in a life.
Yeah, like it was one of those ones. It's like you were there to me, anyways. Like when I'm reading it, like it feels like she's there for 30 minutes to an hour, and it's like you don't know what that life is like for 30 minutes to an hour. Like I don't know if you can fully experience like what a life is like in that short of time. You know what I mean? Especially when you spent the first 15 of it asking stupid ass questions that they think that you should know, right? Like my brother's dead. Yeah, he's been dead for 2 years. You didn't know that? And it's like, no, like I did not actually. It's
like how many of these lives are going to be put like up for psychiatric care for a week or something after after leave them?
So it was just one of those things. Like that was one of those little like weird gripes that kind of bothered me too. I was like, yeah, like I really wish they would have done it of the like, I have my consciousness of me, and like I know what's going on, but also being able to access those like memories or
like I wish that she had like a filing cabinet of sorts that she could like reach into for a specific topic and have those memories.
Maybe like a going along the book theme, maybe just like a prefix of what's going on in
Yeah.
that life and just basic things. I will say, going off of Wizard Sky Rizzy's point there, my thing that I found, my point of contention with it was how quickly she was able to leave certain lives, like, because it sets it up like you're only gonna leave this life when you feel utterly disappointed, and then like the first life she goes to, her cat's dead still, and she comes back, and it's like, I understand that it's disappointing that your cat's dead, but are you overall disappointed with the life? You didn't get to experience it.
Like
So,
you have no idea what actually was waiting for you.
yeah, exactly. Like, for all you know, yeah, your cat's dead, but you're a multimillionaire, so maybe, it's a sad moment, but you got all this nice things you can do.
Right. Well, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, because like, like the utterly disappointed kind of thing. I was like, life is just full of disappointments, like all over the place, right? But like, I think that might be like one of those weird like core things of the book, right? Is like life is full of disappointments. It's just how you respond or what you do after that, being disappointed or getting disappointed or whatever it is, right? So like, there's that, but it's just like, I don't know. Part of it is exactly that. It's like, whoa, okay, well, that's a disappointment that my brother is dead, but I'm still having this cool like rock star life where I have almost everything else you could possibly want.
Yeah, I kind of
Well,
hate
I think
that she jumped life so much when she found out somebody was dead.
Right, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's like you have like one disappointment, right? And that's it. And you're like, okay, and then I'm just done with that life, and it's like, what? That's kind of like weird to me. It's like, and that's why I was like, you only stayed here for like 30 minutes to like an hour in every life. Like it's just maybe there were some a little bit longer than others, but it's like you kind of didn't give it a chance to some.
Well, I want to
degree.
be honest with you. I think that's the point of the library itself. Like, kind of to loop it back to the beginning conversation we had, I think the library is its own entity, like the essence or the ethereal being that is, the library. It is trying to push you kind of more towards appreciating your own life, leaving you in like the sense of you having to play catch up with something that's not who you really are. It's pushing you to then fully go back to that life you lived beforehand. I feel like the library itself is its own entity who has its own ulterior motives that pushes it, whoever it is in the library or whatever setting they're in, to what they really are. And the longer that they spend in the library, they have, as they start getting some more memories, they kind of choose to be in the library until they find something that absolutely fits them. And the more close they get to that, the more they can start, like, quote unquote, at least the way I took it was being closer to what they really are or what they really want before they choose whether or not they want to take those lives or go back to their body. And I honestly think that with that, that's kind of what is pushing Nora more to make those decisions in that instance, is to basically give her the situation where she's stuck. She has to feel stuck in order to either say, this is what I want, or go back to her body, or because the Midnight Library kind of wants that to be the overall outcome, is what it
Because
feels.
they want her to choose to live.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to your point, Grayson, like I'm thinking about it now.
Keegan, we can't hear you. I see that you're trying to talk.
Yeah, I was gonna say she did actually have the one life that she wanted to stay in and she wanted to go back to, and she was so disappointed she couldn't. But the library, like, in a way, kind of brought her back.
So, and that's what I was gonna say. I was like, because maybe like to like Grayson's point is maybe the point is to just show you all of this stuff, but not really like you don't have the choice to like stay, right? Like even though they go in the beginning, it's like, oh yeah, you have the choice, you can live that life as long as you want, whatever, blah blah blah. I'm thinking like maybe the entity that be or that is the library, that's not the plan. Like that's not their ultimate like end goal, right? Is they just kind of like tell you that, but realistically that's not going to happen. Like I feel like it's there to like teach you something, you know what I mean, about your life, or to help you like realize certain things, or maybe like help you like, let go of your regrets and things like that. But like ultimately you aren't going to have a life to where you're like completely happy or something like that. And it's just, you're never meant to live in those lives. You just stay in the one that you're in, like the core life or whatever, right? But you go in with a new understanding or a new outlook and expectations and things like that.
It also kind of feels like the devil's deal device, where it's like, you make the deal, you take what you want, you feel like you're getting exactly what you need, but there's always something. It's the genie wish. It's there's one thing constantly missing.
The monkey paw kind of thing.
Exactly. There's just that one little thing that you could have had, but it's not entirely complete. So you're not entirely satisfied with the life that you could be living. So out you go.
It was one of those things, like I was reading this and I was getting like because it's one of my favorite movies just because it's a lesson like any day of the week. But I was getting huge Bedazzled vibes.
Yeah.
First of all, because I love that movie. First of all, it's the Brendan Fraser household. Okay, don't you disrespect this man. But second of all, it's one of those ones that I felt that's exactly what I felt like. You know what I mean? He's like, I want to be rich, tall, powerful, whatever. He's a basketball player out here, just jamming on everybody, having a great time. Like,
But then,
and then it's just like oh, come on. That's one of the best parts of the movie. By the way,
we went out there, we gave it 110%.
You gotta go and give 110%. Yeah.
Well, speaking of
Sweating.
like film and stuff, James, was there anything else that maybe it reminded you of thematically?
So is there an answer you're looking for? Because you're connecting it to film, and I have no idea what you're talking
Or
about.
TV show, maybe?
I would
Oh
say-
yes. Actually, no. Good point. I grew up loving the Sliders show in the '90s or the late, the 2000s. I forget that guy's name. Jerry O'Connell or something like that was the main character. And I was reading it, and I was like, this is a lot like that show Sliders. And I was thinking that about the time she jumped into the Arctic life, and then immediately she meets Hugo, and he's like, "I call us Sliders," and I'm like, Matt, come on, like, are you just stealing a whole concept here? But I thought that was funny. I want to talk about Hugo though. I mean, that's really the unspoken tragedy of this whole thing, to be so unimpressive a lover that your partner taps out of the whole dimension.
like you leave a whole
and
multiversal life.
Yeah, you're a slider too. So like, the deal, what happened. You were so unimpressive. She tapped out of the whole dimension and chose another life.
Not
This
to
ain't my
mention,
life. This
she
ain't
made
it.
it-
Chief, I'm out.
not to mention,
she made
it
it
was.
through a she
Go
made
ahead,
it through a
James.
polar bear attack.
And
but
what
it was
did
it was
was your abilities as a lover.
And not
How
to,
many
not to
lifetimes-
mention,
David, lack of. Yeah.
and not to mention,
How many-
right beforehand when they're having a conversation, and he's like, "In some lives, we're married," and it's like, "Oh, she dipped out in the middle of it, dude." Like,
yeah.
if you were married in one life, then that other Nora slid out of there too, apparently.
Rumor has it, seconds
Where
after
do you
that
go?
happened, he heard an ethereal womp womp.
Poor Hugo.
He got back to the
Wah,
video
wah,
store and the cashier was
wah.
just like, all right.
You want to go back?
You want to go back?
But
You're muted, Keegan.
thematically, honestly, I think it wouldn't surprise me the fact that he was shown to be a big like video guy. Maybe it was actually like maybe the character Hugo was written to be a fan of Sliders, that he actually did like tie it. Maybe it was like an Easter egg from the author. I would
Yeah.
also say thematically, if we're looking at film, it reminded me a lot of It's a Wonderful Life almost.
Same.
How she was getting to see like how big a difference she really did make, because even when she had the perfect life almost of where she wanted to be, and she noticed things like the piano lessons for the kids, so he became like a hoodlum and went to jail, how her teacher had died that she never went to visit, how the neighbor got put in the old folks home because she was, she wasn't around, just all the little differences that her and her regular mundane life had actually really made a huge difference. And I think that was what eventually ended up with her going back to her normal life. So definitely gave me a lot of those same vibes as the It's a Wonderful Life, just kind of tied up in a multiverse story.
Well,
This is
and
gonna
also
be a
sort
deep
of
cut.
like a Christmas Carol that we covered recently, where Scrooge learns some stuff about him and how he's living and like the future, and he goes back to his life to be a better person.
Right, to
based off
change
some-
it, to be like,
Yeah.
hey, I do, what I do is actually affecting people negatively or whatnot, and how you can kind of turn that around.
Well, I was going to say
I-
this felt a lot like Quantum Leap too, where it was just hopefully each next leap will be the last leap home.
Right.
That was much sadder. He wanted to
Yeah.
go home.
And he never made it.
See, that one makes a little more sense because at least in that he's in other people's lives. So
Yeah.
you get why he may not know absolutely everything. And also, okay, I know this is because it's a book, it's a story, the author did it on purpose, but it also frustrated me with the not knowing things, how she always showed up like 30 minutes before something major. Like, you're about to go on stage. Oh, you're about to perform. You're like, okay, calm. Like, how come she didn't show up in a life where they're like, oh, you're on vacation for the next 3 weeks in Hawaii. Have fun. There was never like a time period to get to know the life.
That's what I mean. Like it was just so like quick. Just felt
And again, it's because it would have been a boring ass thing to write about, to be like, Nora had 2 weeks to fully research and delve into this life.
You had to figure out her life, right? Yeah, and I mean, I kind of get that, but I don't know. It's just it's one of those ones that sometimes
it feels unrealistic. It kind of takes you out.
It's unrealistically, yeah. Like,
yeah,
because like, okay, so if I'm being honest, like, if you could live like a different life, David, how long would you realistically spend there? Like, if your life wasn't in danger constantly, or something, you know what I mean? Like,
and it was just like trying it out.
Yeah,
especially if it was like a regret that I was fixing.
Right.
I would give it at least a couple of weeks, unless there was like something massively bad.
Nah, man, if I go into a life and my cat's dead, I'm out. I mean, if I go into a life and I'm having disappointing sex, I'm out.
Well, that's a given, but
yeah, it would have to be like, it would have to be something like I went into the life and I'm homeless on the streets, or I just got arrested, or, you know, it'd have to be something pretty bad for me to give up on the whole like thread.
Right. Mm-hmm. So and that's what I mean, because I was like, oh, she didn't like kind of want to stay there for 5 more minutes to like figure out like why. Perfect. The example, the first one, right, with like the pub thing. It's like you didn't want to stay there for like 5 more minutes to like figure out maybe like
why did he cheat on me?
Like, why? Yeah. And I say that mostly because like in my daily life or whatever and things like that, like I've learned there's always reasons for things, right? And like so like that part kind of like bothered me. And I'm not saying it's her fault, right? That's not what I'm saying. It's just more of a like there's 2 sides to every or what is it, the 3 stories? There's like 3 stories, his story, her story, and the truth or whatever, right? So it's like it was really just like her being there and then her being like kind of hurt, like, I mean, oh, this sucks. And then
like, this real quick.
Maybe this was about Nora's personality, though. She was shown to be a very selfish and hasty person. Maybe the fact that she made these impulsive choices feeds into the fact that as soon as something was disappointing, she dipped. But I gotta say, I find it unrealistic that anybody in this situation wouldn't, for at least a little bit, be like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, where you just go off the chain like wild in 1 or 2 of the lives and just do ridiculous things.
Start doing ridiculous stuff
because you know you're going to be fine. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to break into this. I'm going to go find, you know, I mean, short of being killed, because they did say if you died in the life, you were dead. But I feel like if it was me, I would go crazy in at least 1 or 2 lives doing just ridiculous things. Right,
I agree.
And then get out of that life. Like if I'd already written a life off, like, you know, oh, my brother's dead, so I'm leaving. I'd be like, but first.
See, but then you go into Keegan's whole point at the beginning of this talk. There's the consent, and you're just ruining that version of yourself's life.
Oh,
that
no,
version of yourself is now going to be the homeless person on the street because you decided to go wild.
I'm out of there. I'm out. I just said it was going to be selfish. Like, it's an asshole move. But I'd have to do it. I'd have to do it at least once, because I know that guy would have done the same thing to me if he had the chance. So I'm just beating him to it.
David, I think that's more about you than anything else.
Well, no, because like it's like that rock star life, right? It's one of those things. Like obviously she's like rich, famous, whatever. Like I would have used the shit out of that, if I'm being honest. Like, don't you know who I am? I'm Nora Seed. I can do what I want.
Yeah, wouldn't you just go like, just be like, you know what? I'm gonna go into a bar and just buy drinks for everybody for the hell of it.
Yeah,
stuff, you know?
I mean, because like anybody at the end of the day would look and just be like, typical rock star. Like,
and then,
you know what I mean? Like,
I also feel like with all that money, is there not one life where she would have tried like a public cry to be like, hey, if you're experiencing multiple lives, if you're a slider, contact me.
Right.
Well, like, wouldn't you want to try at some point? Because I know she said she ran into a couple of them, along with seeing Hugo a couple more times.
Yes.
Well, also, that must have been a very awkward meeting when she saw Hugo the second time.
I was going to say, also, how do you go about that? Like, hey, so I noticed you kind of pieced out. Yeah.
Oh, I was just so tired.
Literally, like, you know what I mean?
Hey, yo, your dick ain't good. Sorry.
Yeah, it was trash. Sorry. Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like
not sorry.
It's a very awkward meeting.
Hashtag not fired.
At one point he's like, it's weird how many other people you can meet, like how many other like sliders you can meet or whatever, just by literally like saying, you know, what you're doing out loud.
Yeah.
And yeah, like why wouldn't
popular like her? Like even at that concert, if she would have just been like, "Hey, anybody out there that you know?"
Right.
Or make a song about it, you know?
Yeah,
kind of like
something, right?
Easter eggs throughout it.
Exactly. I feel like anybody realistically in that situation maybe would have done a few things that weren't even touched on. And I'm sure that was just a choice by the author. Like, I get it, but it did take me out of the immersion a little bit because I was like, it's feeling almost more like a fable than a
Right.
realistic story. It's more of a teaching
David,
parable.
I think that you hit the nail on the head right there, because I don't even know if this is intentional on the part of the author, but this is like, sometimes you read a good novel and there's an incidental lesson, but this is like he wrote a lesson that was incidentally a novel.
Yeah,
And like,
very
it's
preachy.
much more in the genre of an allegory, or like a, you think of like, oh, The Pilgrim's Progress by Bunyan, written way back, solely for the purpose of being a spiritual lesson. And I feel like this is one of like a new era, which, the wizard Skyrizi said, like, it's talking about being spiritual and into that kind of thing. Like, I think we need things like this. We need allegories and new tales to kind of get our gears turning in an age that factors in quantum mechanics and parallel dimensions, and it's just cool to think about. But I think Matt Haig really set out and was like, I have a message, and this is a thing that you can't really think too deeply about. It's just to get a message across. And like, that comes through a whole lot. Like, I never thought I was reading a novel. I was reading a parable. Like, when
Yeah.
I started it, once they introduced the library, I was like, she's gonna pick her own life at the end. Like,
You
it's
knew it
very
as
surface
soon
level.
as you.
Yeah.
I agree. There was never
Yeah.
any fear that she was actually going to be like in another life. I totally agree.
I see, and that maybe it's just the hope, the romantic hopeful in me or whatever. I was hoping that she would, but like realistically, like you do read a couple of these and you go, oh yeah, she's definitely gonna choose. You know what I mean? Like this is a lesson book of like us, trying to teach her a lesson essentially of being like, be happy with yourself and be, you know what I mean? Like be happy with yourself. Like, yes, you can have regrets or whatever, but the decisions that you made were the decisions that you made, and you have to stick with them at the end of the day. Like that's, you know what I mean? It was just a very huge like lesson kind of book. And I was like, yeah, I kind of getting through it. I was like, man, I was really hoping that she'd catch a fun life or have a good one or something like that. Just the hopeful, right? But I was like, realistically, nope, she's going to wake up in her thing and be like, I didn't want to die. And I was like, all right, yep, I know where this is going. It's going to end
I
up,
think, and maybe like I do a lot of writing myself, so maybe this is just the author part of me, but I feel like what would have been really interesting would have been if when she showed up, one of the first things they told her is like, yeah, no, you can't go back to that life. You gave it up. Like,
to be here. Like that would
yeah,
be
like you're
interesting
out.
point.
You've got to find something else or just be done. But you gave up the old Nora Seed, or as a matter of fact, another one had her own library and has taken over that life. So you're out. Something like that. Like somebody else woke up as that one.
That's
David, to your point, I honestly think like with the whole parable thing, if they wanted it to have more of an impact, they should have spent more time on the separate lives that they kind of went into, because as we kind of brought out, it did happen really quickly, and it feels like this is just a shotgun to like make it seem super deep, and that it's talking about a lot of stuff and making you kind of think about it, but it feels like it just goes very quickly just to say, this is what we said, and I mentioned mental health, so therefore I'm very deep in thought.
Especially that montage chapter where she went through like
Yeah.
20 lives in a couple of sentences.
You're like,
it was
my
like,
gosh.
wait, you went to space? What?
Like, let's pump the gas there, or pump the brakes there, buddy. It's that's a little too much.
Right. Well, because that's what I was gonna say. I was like, you're exactly right, Grayson. Like it like sped through it. It just didn't feel like genuine.
Like,
it was a puddle that wanted to be a lake.
Exactly. It was like my huge nitpick with this was, or the thing that just kind of got me out of this book was, as soon as I got literally to the chapter where it talked about the entire lives, and I knew she would pick her own life by the end of it, I kind of checked out. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's the point I started doing like audiobook. Because with that, everything was predictable. Everything was kind of the same way, but with how quickly it just blew through all of those ideas without, giving us a little bit of like just substance to it. It was just all soup with no meat. And it was, at least in my opinion anyway, with how quickly it just burned through just everything.
Just chicken broth. Nobody want that.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm going to be honest.
Broth is nice, but it's not all I want in a soup.
By the end of the book,
like some noodles, some meat maybe.
Not only did I not care about any of the people she had met along the way, by the end, I didn't even really care about Nora.
Exactly. I mean, even like to what you brought out earlier, like with how quickly this was, she didn't really do any work to change her perspective. It was, I'm here, I don't like it, I'm out. And then all of a sudden she's supposed to change and choose her own life and change in her real life. I don't buy that at all with how this book was proceeded with.
Well,
Wow.
you're right though, because I think it goes back to again the shortness that she lived in the lives. Like she wasn't. What did she?
She
what
didn't
did she learn?
appreciate them.
Exactly.
Right.
Like,
Like what did she learn from the pub one? Other than like her fiance was turns into a drunk dickhead. Like that's she didn't learn a lesson there, realistically.
No, because she didn't
mean-
take the time to find out what went wrong to stop it from happening in another
Exactly
life.
my point.
I mean, David, even if she had the consequence of you get in here once, that's all you got, that would have at least been some sort of like, barrier to keep her in there to see if she really wants to stick it out and then learn a lesson to work through it and then be like, you know what, I can't do this, I'm out.
Yeah,
Right.
or like if they would have been like, you've got 5 tries.
Exactly.
What are your 5 biggest regrets? We'll try to get it right.
Even that, 100%.
Yeah.
Nick.
I was just gonna say 2 things. One, going off of the
One, I hate you guys.
no. I'm gonna phrase this another way. I'm gonna address it. Okay, so one, going off of the whole, she didn't appreciate each life. I think by the end of the book, she learned appreciation. So she didn't appreciate those lives because she didn't know what appreciating things really meant before.
It's
So
kind of like you don't appreciate something until it's gone.
Yeah, kind of like that. And then 2, I'm really saddened by Grayson saying he didn't care at the end of the book, but I was like, oh man, because I just read like the last 30 pages this morning, and it was the life where she was the professor and she really wanted to stay.
She was
And
happy.
as I was reading it, I don't normally read a lot of books, and I don't normally get emotional for anything, but I almost like came to tears a little bit with how much I felt that she wanted to stay in that life.
Don't get me wrong. The book hit me emotionally in some ways. It's just with how some of this is done, it's kind of like playing a video game. You're in, you're out. There's nothing really there. There is a lot to if you're like in a tough spot and you're needing to get out of it, this can definitely get you on a right track. But if you're just kind of going into this and you're just watching kind of just the progress and like trying to expect this to give you some sort of incentive to change or something like that, if somebody builds it up as that kind of book, this ain't that. It is a very quick tale of this is how life can go. You can turn it around, but there's nothing that actually says it's going to take work. You have to actually put the effort into it. It's a very hollow, very empty just effort to say, just give it another go, yeah? And then it doesn't really give you much more than that. It's like, I appreciate it, but at the same time, it's nothing but just, all right,
Grayson.
it's maybe outside right now, but go down, get a point, and put in the work, yeah? It's how it feels to me.
Grayson, that's who I want to be your Mrs. Elm in your restaurant. Oh, just give it another go, mate. Just give it another go.
Hi, mate. Was that too spicy for you? Let me
That
bring
gave
you out
me
something else.
Lily Aldrin vibes.
But it
when
has
she
to be
always
Michael
went
Caine.
to her English
That's all I
accent.
want it to be. Right, it does seem bad. Well, you do have to do it better again.
Well, I will say,
Some men just want to watch the world turn.
And that's you in this life. Here we go.
I will say, I think one of the hallmarks, I think, of a good story is that there's a lot of different opinions on it and that it makes a lot of different people feel different things. If it's something that can be talked about and conversed, I think that, the fact that we're here discussing it, it was at least, something unique in front of us. I will say, Nick, there's a lot of people that agree with you. There's tons of fantastic reviews online. A lot of people did really take a lot out of this story, and they are actually in the works of making it a movie right now.
Yep.
So it is definitely resonated with enough people out there that even if it feels like we may be on the other side of it right now, you have got a big force on your side too with this story. So
I'm sure. I respect Grayson and I respect his opinion a lot. So I appreciate his input. I'm a little saddened by it because it sounds like it sounds like it might differ from mine in one crucial way. That being said, I don't know if I'm gonna be ready for him to rate it at the end of this discussion.
Well, you know what? Let's
You gave me a
see.
surprise.
Well, first, Grayson, you said you didn't feel anything. You didn't feel anything for even that poor Mrs.
I
Elm
didn't-
entity that was crushed and burned alive at the end of the library.
I didn't. I mean,
She
hey,
was
look,
fine.
That was
got a guy when a bird's got a guy.
You can't kill a figment of your
Just
imagination.
do it. Just give it another go.
She's an entity. She's made out of
she's got like a
imagination.
burning beam on her back. She's like, oh, just open another book, love. Come on.
I need you to keep going.
But Grayson he's curious as to why, you know, what's the point of doing all those push-ups if you can't push that
Yeah, that's
bloody
a
thing off
bloody
you?
All those push-ups and you can't.
You can't even lift a bloody log.
Oh yeah.
But no, Keegan, it's not that I didn't feel
Oh my
anything. It was
God.
just when I realized like when you know where it's gonna end and what they're like trying to do, you're like, I mean, you can try to make me feel that, but I know where it's gonna end. You know what I mean? It's
That's
like, you should feel really sad right now because this is happening. And I'm like, I feel
Now, okay.
sad, but
Would you have liked it more if she would have stayed in that last life?
I don't know if I would have liked it more if she would have stayed in that last life. I think it was if they would have done that, would have been an insane twist. I would not have this is a complete story, which I knew where it was going, but I think if she would have stayed in that life, it might have been a good twist, but it would have felt a little cop-outy. You know what I mean?
Or what if like halfway through she would have had a life and then discovered she couldn't leave it when she wanted to?
That could have been cool too.
I think that would have been interesting, and she'd be forced
Absolutely.
to stay there longer. And
Now that's a twist. Yeah, like that's
kind
a
of
solid.
like kind of like the way that Nolan, you said that, you know, she just kept leaving. Like, what if it was like the library has a cool down period? All right, you checked out too many books at once.
Right.
Exactly.
I
Give
do
the world
think
some consequence to it. You know, like
Grayson,
this is
what
only
if the
276
polar bear ate her?
Well,
You know,
and see, well, I think that goes back to what James was saying, that it felt almost more like he came up with a lesson that he wanted to get out there and was like, what story can I make up to fit this lesson in?
Fit the lesson.
It felt very much
Absolutely.
like a parable, like the ones that Jesus used to give in the Bible, you know, very simple stories that get to the point. It was just spruced up for today's modern day science world and intelligence. You know, it showed the different lives and stuff, but at its heart, I think it was very preachy of your regrets are all part of what make you who you are, and that it's more a matter of continuing your life and not letting your past dictate your future, I think, as opposed to, you know, dwelling on the things that you can't change. That stuff is going to happen, and you know, there isn't a way to change that. Like, you're always going to think like, what if I did this different, which is kind of what the whole library was about, was what if I did this instead.
Right.
And it just kind of showed you that, you know, you need to love and cherish what you can, because there are still great moments in your own life, regardless of the mistakes that you may have made. That was your plan. Like, if we go by, because I think it was kind of alluded to that she was like an angel / some form of extension of God that was kind of running the library.
They wanted to think that.
Yeah, that it was somewhat along that. So it kind of made me think that it was like, hey, there's a divine plan that is the best for you if you'll just stick to it. That you were meant to be on this path, not these other lives, and we're going to let you figure out for yourself why those were bad.
See,
And
but I have
then
an issue
she
with
did.
that. Like, it is one of those things. Like, I don't know. I like having, or thinking at least, having the illusion that I have like free will, right? Like, not everything's like predestined or predetermined. Kind of like the what is it, the master of your own destiny kind of situation. But I mean, like, realistically, we knew where this was headed, right? Like, it was like, okay, this is going to be a lesson. It's not going to be that kind of stuff. For me, like, to answer that question though, like, I don't think I would have liked it better. And I agree with Grayson on that. It would have been like a cop-outy feeling.
Oh yeah.
But it is one of those ones that, like, I think that I would have taken that twist versus like the ending that we did get, right? Because it not that it felt preachy, but it was just very much along those lines of like, it's a lesson. Like, this book is just a lesson or whatever of like, hey, you're gonna have regrets. You just have to learn to live with those regrets and keep it pushing.
What I think would have been very interesting, and what I kind of thought it might go towards, but I guess that was too interesting for them. I think it would have been really cool if, since they were going through the lives so fast, as you mentioned, Grayson, if it would have started showing that it was like mentally affecting her, that she was losing herself and that she wasn't able to like stabilize necessarily. Like maybe show it through Hugo, maybe have him like losing himself big time. Like she runs into him again, like 40, 50 lives later, and he is just off his rocker, like barely recognizable for who he was, and that he eventually loses himself in the shifting and can't stay anywhere and is just constantly sliding through lives until he's just a metaphysical puddle of goo, basically, to put some kind of fear on her of like, I can't just keep changing. Like there needed to be a consequence for how many times she was going and doing this.
Well, I think Nora started out already pretty uninterested in his metaphysical puddle of goo.
Yeah, she wasn't around for the goo. She left way before that.
She cut it off before.
I want to see the
before that,
sequel.
yeah.
How Hugo gets his groove back. That's part 2.
The Midnight
Honestly,
Library 2. Hugo gets his groove back.
Listen, this is directly to Matt. If you write that book, I will read it. That title alone, I'm in. I'm 100% in.
But David, to your point, I think even if they would have had that kind of consequence in there, it could have even been allegorical. It could have been like, don't try to be somebody you're not. Quit trying to emulate other people's lives. Actually make it have some sort of substance to it. Have a point to that storyline. You know what I mean?
Like, she felt like a tourist every time. It was like a visitor. Yeah. It never felt like she was actually trying to find a place to live.
Right, and it's there, like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you didn't stay long enough to get the. You got the nickel tour, really. Like
it's like she was touring the multiverse, but we all knew she was going to go home at the end of the day.
It felt like Family Guy's Welcome to the Around the Multiverse, just episode where you're firing through it real quick. You don't really get to see anything, but you get a little clips of it here and there just to kind of keep you interested.
So I was going to say they kind of touched on both of the points you just made. The point of coming across a life where you couldn't leave. That's kind of what happened when she went to the glaciers. When she became the glaciologist, she came across the bear and she wanted to leave right then and there, but she couldn't because of other things, and because she wasn't feeling actual disappointment, she's feeling more scared.
I'd be disappointed if I died. Yeah,
and I do like that.
How
I think
funny of a dip out would that have been, though, that the other one came back right as there's this bear.
That's the ultimate shit your pants moment. Like,
no, that's
hang on, real quick.
That's the ultimate question: the bear or Hugo, man or bear?
I was gonna say, which would you rather? Which would you rather?
What do you come back to?
Come back during the bear attack or come back during disappointed sex? I don't know. For me, it's personally disappointed sex because I've been there before. I could go there again.
Sorry, Hugo didn't cuddle you afterwards?
Being face to face. No, we're not gonna get into that. Okay, but being face to face with a killer animal, I don't know if I'd want to come back in that life at that moment.
Yeah. Did you watch Grizzly Man? Is that what led you down this path? Is watching Grizzly Man?
I watched Cocaine Bear.
A bear on cocaine? Yeah, that's.
The story is so much shorter than the movie. It's so funny.
David's seen the real Cocaine Bear.
I did. I've seen the taxidermied body.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's in Kentucky in a store. You can go pose with him and buy little teddy bear versions.
No.
Gonna be honest, David, that last little bit of that sentence threw me for a loop there for a second.
Hey, I got a plushy Cocaine Bear. You don't, so.
I mean, I was like little tiny what, David? Little tiny what's, David?
And he came with this little baggie of sugar that I put on my food. It was so good. Never had anything like it.
Perking me right up.
Yeah, I was awake for 3 days.
Jesus. Sound like Abed over there. I was awake for 3 days. I invented my own language. Yeah.
I became a slider.
Jeez.
Anyway, well, I mean, we kind of touched upon it. Nick, you introduced us to the book. Do you want to give us your rating and why you rate it that way?
Oh, are we talking about
do we want to let Nick go last?
Are we talking about ratings already? Yeah, I guess so.
Would you like? Is there another?
Yeah, is there something?
I wasn't sure if there's more questions. Usually these talks. These talks go on for like 2 hours. So
that's
why we're an hour in.
I know we're trying to keep it a little shorter so people don't fall asleep in the middle of our episodes.
I get it.
True. But I did say I wanted to see if anybody had any questions they wanted to ask to the group
I was just
inspired
that
by
was
this?
my
Does anybody have one?
that was actually my next question of if Keegan or David yourself had any more questions that you had written down. Keegan said he did, but I think I only heard like 2 of them. So if you only wrote down like 2 questions, how dare you for saying I have a list of
Did
questions?
you like the book?
Okay, to be fair,
Did you
Yeah,
like
let's see
it
the
and
next
did you read
question.
it?
I mean, to be fair, a lot of the
I
questions
like
I
that.
had.
Did you read it? Wasn't the first question.
Nick, did you read this book before you recommended it to us?
Everybody's
Yes.
like, no.
This is my second time reading the book actually.
Okay.
So real quick, while everybody thinks of their questions, I just wanted to say James did something that I wanted to call out that I think is the best thing ever. When he was talking about one of his points, kind of the way that if I was talking about theater and I was like, well, as Shakespeare said, if love be, if music be the fruit of love, play on type thing, he was just like, and as the wizard Sky Rizzy said, like so factually and just like I
So
was like,
deadpan.
that's like I would have gone with it if they're like, well, as Plato said in the Odyssey, we'll.
You got to quote authority. You got to cite your authorities.
I loved it. It was great. It's my favorite moment. But yes, Wizard Sky Rizzy, did you have any thoughts of questions that this made you think of that you'd like to pose to the society as a whole?
actually, yes. Because I, thinking about this and like going through the the books or the ideas. I guess the question would be for everybody is like, what is one life that you guys would like to live that is alternate to the one you have now?
And is this like because we're erasing a regret, or is this just any multiversal life?
No, this is yeah. Like I said, I mean, it can be a regret if you have one or whatever, if that's what you want to go with. But this is more of just like I think I would like to live a whatever type of life that you think might be cool or that you might think is interesting or enjoy or something like that. Doesn't have to be like
in
super.
How emotional you want my
2020
response to be on that one?
In 2020, I was doing some filming for Abnormal Voyages, and I was in this graveyard, and I met these 2 guys. One of which was named Keegan Cool, and if I could just erase anything to make my life better today, I feel. No, I think. Jeez,
Right when I was thinking you were a cool guy. Right when I thought you were a cool guy. I regret meeting Keegan.
Just everybody says that. Everybody just.
Are we not allowed to say that?
If that was everybody's biggest regret in this conversation, that'd be so funny.
Everybody, yeah, Grayson's like,
I've been
you
a
took
millionaire
mine.
by
You took
now.
what?
David, you took my
I've
date.
been a millionaire.
I would be married with 2 kids by now if I wouldn't have met Keegan.
I wouldn't have been stuck in the cubicle next to Keegan if I had not met Keegan.
No, I would have to say, as much as I enjoy doing like creating, whether that be here content online, writing and things like that, I wish that I had started earlier and taken it more seriously. I think to get more stuff out there and really put the time and effort into it that I should have in the early days, as opposed to treating things as like a hobby and just spare time. I think just being a little more focused on that, I think it would have gotten me much further, much quicker. But I'm glad to be here now.
Keegan?
Well, see, there was this one time my buddy Brendan, he wanted to go see Bonnie and Clyde's graves. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, he's gone.
He turns off his camera.
I don't know. I think, I mean, sort of similar to David, I've thought about it a lot. Like, where would I have been if I had started earlier, maybe taken it a little bit more serious when I was younger, or maybe just, I don't know, lately I've tried to do more on my own. And what would I have done early on if I was more just like headstrong and, okay, we got to get it done like here and there? I don't know. Also, at the same time, I wonder like where life would have gone had I got like finished college and stuff like that. I don't know. Stuff I think about.
Very fair.
Very fair.
Well,
Wow.
Keegan, I finished college and I knew you because we worked the same job. So
He
Just so you
finished
know.
college, so now he gets 2 jobs.
Yeah. So take that into consideration.
What about you, Nick? What is yours?
Actually, what I was just thinking about was I wish I would have stuck with music education when I went to college. The reason why I did not pursue music education was because you had to compose and conduct your own piece on piano, and I get really bad like cramps in my wrists, like arthritis cramps. So I immediately, as soon as I heard that, I was like, nope, I'm picking something else to study. And I had psychology as a secondary interest, so I went with that. But had I stuck with music education, I think I would have gone on to be a choir teacher, and that would have been a lot of fun.
Okay, that's pretty cool. James?
Choir teacher, huh?
Kind of a hard question because it's like every one of my regrets kind of just point back to how lazy I still am, because it's like, well, I wish I would have become a history teacher, or I wish I would have done more with music, or I wish I would be a writer. It's like you could still do those things and you're choosing not to.
Oh,
And
what
so I
better
don't like to
time than
think about it.
today?
Right.
Exactly. So really my answer would be I would just somehow wish I had made a choice that would have won me the lottery or made me independently wealthy, because I hate the concept of a day job. I want to do what I love and not worry about money.
Yep.
And
I wish I could go
you
back
know,
and invest in Bitcoin before it was.
yeah, something like that. You know, at least 8 hours of our day is taken up doing stuff we don't want to do, and I hate that.
I feel that
Yeah.
so hard.
Yeah,
Grayson,
no,
what about you?
I think we all 100% feel like that about not having to
The,
do
wiz-
the
the wizard
mundane
Sky
money
Rizzy
making.
here next.
Sky
Oh,
Rizzy's
great.
gonna be last.
Go ahead,
He asked
Grayson.
the
Yeah,
question.
I asked the question.
No, I don't care. I want Grayson to go last.
I cannot like the book, Nick.
Him going last will not make him like the book anymore. All right.
I don't want to
No,
hear him
fine,
speak.
Nick. Just because of this, I'm giving you the worst rating. You're welcome.
Oof,
No.
got him. But also, yeah, go ahead, Grayson.
No, I mean I don't really care. I'm fine with whatever.
I was just kidding. I was just.
No, yeah.
I was
Am I going next, or is no one going next? Or I'm sorry, the
Grayson,
Wizards
go
Sky
next.
Rizzy.
Grayson, go ahead.
Okay. Before we get into this, how real and emotional and raw do you want this to get?
It's
Because
totally
God.
up to
It's
you.
up to you.
Remember,
Yeah, like I said, you
we
can give it
are
off
live, but this is a
personal
safe
or-
space.
I understand that. I would not bring that up if I didn't feel like this was, the space to do so.
Last I checked, Blake Skirto's not in this chat, so you're good.
Oh God, that just shut off all emotionality. I'm going to give you a fake answer.
I think it'd be really funny if Grayson would have prefaced like that, and we'd be like, "No, go," and he's like, "Okay." So a few weeks ago, I was asked to read this book.
Actually, I started working at King Supers, and I met this guy in the meat department, and really weird stuff happened after that. And for some reason, I'm here. I kind of want to change that.
He took me to this restaurant, and the menu was so weird.
But to be the real answer is I would want to live in a life where my mom was a better version of herself, because grew up essentially without a mom, so it was something else. But if we're going to talk about, fun dream regrets, what I would honestly want is something similar to what we talked about here tonight, is to actually apply myself in school. I had the ability, I had the know-how. I could have gone very far and been living a very different life now if I'd actually applied myself in school, taken it seriously, and actually wanted to use the time that I had to reach as high as I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little yin and yang for you here.
Sending you hugs for the first answer.
Appreciate that.
And I'm sure you know this, but whatever she did, that was also her choices.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, not yours.
It's not a regret. Like, you couldn't have changed that.
Yeah. No, if we're talking like idealistic lives of, because you can live any life in the Midnight Library, that is one life without a doubt.
You would try to.
I would want us to at least see what happened.
Yeah.
But everything else, I would rather see where I could have gone with school, at least realistically, because I would be in a very different world than I am now.
Very cool. And the Wizard Sky Rizzy?
The Wizard Sky Rizzy would. It's going to sound like a sort of a piggyback on Grayson's answer.
You also wish Grayson's mom would have been more in your life?
Yeah, I
I
really
mean, she was that bad.
I really do, you know. No, it's more of the like the applying oneself or whatever, right? Not that I didn't apply myself, but more for me, it's like I wish that it's like Grace, like I didn't have the support around me necessarily to like make it happen. But it was one of those things that like I very much could have been a professional athlete of some sort in most likely baseball. And it's one of those things that like if I could, you know, go back or whatever, like I would try to do everything that I possibly could to make that that dream or whatever it is more of a reality. Um, yeah, it's like through mine, like that's what it would be. Is just, you know, somehow the kind of like her swimming one or whatever, right? Like it just was one of those ones that like I spread myself too thin doing like too many like other sports or things like that, and just you know, part of it was not having the support system to like be there. You know what I mean? Like obviously her dad was there for her and all that kind of stuff, but for me, it's one of those things that didn't always have the support there, whether it be time or financial wise, things like that. But yeah, that's pretty much the one for me is that of, you know, trying to become a professional athlete of some sort.
So I think it's interesting and maybe a little depressing that all of us basically said if we applied ourselves more and focused. I don't know what that says about us as a collective.
It says I guarantee you 5 out of 6 of us have some form of ADHD.
So
Society of ADHDers.
We're
Yeah, no,
all
I mean,
Nora. We're
yeah,
all
I
Nora
know.
Seed.
now that we're all into society together, hopefully we can support and encourage each other to grow and focus on those areas.
Oh, absolutely.
And we support you who are watching this, just so you know.
But only you. Specific. Yes, you. I'm talking
just
to you.
just you.
You.
As a matter of fact, I want you to take a Sharpie and write on your computer screen right now. Is this
Don't do
me?
this.
With a
Don't
check
do
with
that.
a box that says yes and a box that says no, and then check the box that says yes.
Please don't write on your computer in Sharpie.
Don't listen to David.
He tried to warn you, but you know.
James, did you have any specific questions you'd like to pose to the group that you thought of during this novelistic story of ours?
Well, yeah, I'll ask this because, you know, when I read it, well, maybe that would be giving my answer before I everybody else. But when you put this book down after you finished it, you know, regardless of how allegorical it was or the questions you had about it, would you say that you felt more positive? Was it a positive experience reading this book or not?
Grayson, you want to kick us off since you went almost last time?
Yeah, I can kind of pick us up after I brought us down. I think honestly, I did walk away with it. I felt positive because at the end, it's an uplifting story. It's hard not to, you know, feel good watching somebody else do good in their own life. If you're sitting there hating from the outside, you're obviously not really getting the whole point of the book, or at least, you know, not willing to see that life could get better. I don't, again, while it was not my favorite of books, I didn't hate how everything kind of wrapped up. You still walk away feeling good. And so I felt positive after walking away from the book.
And what about you, Wizard Sky Rizzy?
I would say it's generally positive. It's one of those ones that like I think I definitely delve into the book more for like what it is and like what it was, right? As far as like the like taking the concept and like working with it or like running with it of like it did. I sat there and I had a couple questions of like, if I had this opportunity, what would I do with that opportunity? And I think that's why that part of the bit where I'm like, well, I think she didn't spend enough time there, like doing. I think that's why that bothers me, is because like that, you know what I mean? Like the person.
Because if it was you would have done it so much differently.
Right. And if it's the, you know, the type of person that I am, is like, dude, I'd have given that first one at least 3 days to figure out the situation to like understand whatever it is, right? Or you know what I mean? That just essentially I'd have spent more than 5 minutes in every life that I tried to live.
Sure.
I would try to at least give it, you know, the old college try, if you will, right? Which is ironic because I didn't go to college, but
I did, and we're in the same spot.
Hey, well, you know, like there's multiple ways to skin a cat, or whatever they say.
Whoa.
Well, not the cat in the book.
That's
obviously.
what got Nora in
I
trouble in the
have
first
a cat
place.
here
Yeah,
too.
it all started with a dead cat.
Clearly not the orange tabby Berg in the book, all right? But overall, like it is one of those ones that like it kind of just made you think. You know what I mean? Like this is one of those books that I think definitely, if you have some semblance of like self-reflection or inward looking like vision to some degree, you would probably do the same thing while reading it. So it's one of those things like I definitely did. You know, I thought about it, I was like, man, what are some things that I would try to fix, or like what are some regrets that I wish that I did, or something like that. Like
So it made you feel kind of reflective.
Yeah, and I started to envision myself like in the book trying to like be like, oh, okay, what decisions would I make, or where would I choose, or you know what I mean, like whatever it is. So yeah, so I that's kind of how I felt about that.
Nice. Keegan?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think I love positive. I will say at first I was like, man, Nick said this was a positive book, and this is not pretty positive at the start because it was just kind of depressing. But yeah, I think as you go along, you yourself, like Nolan was saying, start to reflect. I mean, we all have regrets. I've spoken on length about the two where like I had wished we had filmed with my papu before he'd passed, or the whole TV deal. And it makes you reflect, like, yeah, I wish I did that, or I wish I went into the TV stuff, whatever. But would I have been happy, and is it better than where I am now? And it just helps you maybe just appreciate where you are and where you're going. And hey, life is what you make of it. So you just gotta make it the best you can.
Yeah, for me, I would agree. I will say plainly, I don't know if I mentioned this already this episode, I wasn't a big fan of the writing style. I do feel like it was very straightforward, not very nuanced. There was not a lot of depth to the characters. I did not really feel an attachment towards anybody. As I mentioned, it does feel very kind of parabolistic, simplistic in the way it gets across. However, I do think it does raise up a lot of very interesting things to think about. I think the multiverse concept and going into string theory and the potential parallel universes, all of that is fascinating. We could literally have an entire 4-hour discussion about just that part of things, I'm sure. But I while it may not have been, in my opinion, one of the best written books, and yes, we knew where it was going as soon as it kind of started. I think we had a good idea of where it was going to go, but I think that's half the stuff you see out there. I mean, when you watch It's a Wonderful Life, he's going to get another chance and appreciate what happened. When you watch Star Wars that good is going to triumph. The hobbits are going to throw the ring in the volcano somehow. So it's not necessarily the ending. Like, just because you can tell it, that just means that you're a student of story. That the more stories you consume, the better you are at kind of getting a read on where it's going to go and those elements. And it's still satisfactory. I think it's the journey that gets us there that really kind of defines it. It's kind of cliched, but it's not the destination as much as how you got there. So, yeah.
Since you're a writer, would you ever let the bad guys win? Would you ever?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Write it for the bad?
100%.
Because like, if I'm being honest, I love when the good guys win. You know what I mean? Good over evil. Classic story. Old as time, right?
I think sometimes it's more,
where I'm like, man, I would just love it. Like,
so I don't want to derail too much. We can talk about this another time. But
sorry,
I've had a multiverse story that I had thought about writing myself someday. That a guy who basically like loses the love of his life and then discovers a way to basically go to other like lives, universes, whatever. So he begins going to get her, like to find where she's still alive and they're together or whatnot. But he can never go back to where he's already been to. And he ends up getting further and further away and not getting, what he never gets that love again.
Never gets
that. It is just something eternally lost that, even though he has all this infinite power, like you can have basically something.
Oh, David muted himself.
David, you muted yourself halfway through your sentence, dog.
I hit the microphone, sorry. But just the thought of, kind of like Grayson said earlier, like the monkey's paw wish and everything, like everything you want, but you don't get what you need. That maybe you are not the best judge of what is actually right for you or what is meant to be. And sometimes what makes something so beautiful and special is the fact that it ends.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes you just have to cherish what you can while you can, because it's not meant to be there forever. And you lose what made it special in trying to chase and hold it down and make it something that you control when it's not something that ever could be controlled. So I think somebody trying to chase this, lost love that they just never get, and then they lose everything else. Because I mean, jumping to another like multiverse is terrifying if you think about it. You would be the only person you really know, even if there's these other versions of all. You don't actually know them. They're completely different people. And the further you get away and the further things change, eventually you're going to be a stranger stranded in your own life. And by the time you realize that, it's too late to go back and actually appreciate what you did have, which is why I think it would have been very interesting if Nora would have been trapped in a life that she didn't want but has to deal with now, and take those lessons that she learned along the way of coping and dealing with stuff as, this isn't ideal, but I'm going to make the best out of my second opportunity to live. I think that would have proven even more so that she actually wanted to live if it wasn't in the perfect life or just a do-over of her own existing one. So I think there's a lot of very interesting places it could have gone, but I do think there is a lot of exploration out there for stories where the bad guy wins or the good guy doesn't get what they want or it doesn't end happily, because I think that does reflect life a little bit more than the always happy ending. I mean, I do think a lot of good happens, and it's great to read and listen, but if you really want to make people think and feel and self-evaluate, I think that downer / sad endings are kind of the way to go. I mean, I don't agree with this, but if you look at it, it's pretty universally accepted that Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie. And that is the one that ends on nothing but down notes.
I mean, David, to your point, I think that saying of you learn more from your losses than your wins is just absolutely universal.
Yeah. And if you see, and sometimes if you can see these losses happen in fictional characters, maybe it's going to stop you from taking those same losses. Maybe you can learn a little lesson vicariously through the characters. So I'm a huge fan of happy endings. I love it. I don't want the main characters to die. I don't want any of that. But I do think for our growth, sometimes the most interesting story is one that has some loss and some actual consequences from it. Like even Harry Potter. Wouldn't it have been great if Harry really did die as a martyr for everybody and they were able to defeat Voldemort because Harry sacrificed himself for them?
Still a good ending, I think, if you write it that way, right?
Exactly. Like, and then he's the boy who lived because he's going to live on forever as the guy who sacrificed himself for the good of the wizarding world.
Right.
Like there's a lot of places that it can
I think there's a lot of like possibilities with that. Like when you do that is, especially because like a lot of the writing these days, I've noticed like it doesn't have impact because there's no real,
it's very
there's
fluffy.
no real stakes or there's no real consequences or anything.
Right. You never are actually afraid that somebody's going to die or that they're not going to win.
Right. And you know what? I think like to that point, I think that's why absolutely everybody, like everyone and their moms, even if you weren't a fantasy dragons, knights and swords type of person, why you loved Game of Thrones. Like, because it just, no one was safe. You were like, oh shit, is it the week? Is this where my favorite guy dies? Like,
I mean, the first season, the first book, it all caps off with who you think is the main character getting beheaded.
Right. And you're like, oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry.
20 plus year spoilers. Sorry, guys.
Spoilers. Hush.
Yeah, sorry.
Was just going to watch that episode tomorrow night. So that's cool.
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
Wow.
David, what a dick.
I know. That's my bad.
But
very roundabout way of putting it. I think it impacted me positively because it made me think. And at the end of the day, if a story can make me think or make me feel, then I do take some positivity away from it. Even if I didn't like the writing story and the characters very much, I can still appreciate something that stimulates me and, sends me off into thoughts that I wouldn't have had, because if a story's not doing that, what's the point,
Right. So it's making you ask questions.
Yeah, I was entertained and it gave me new thoughts, new ideas. So I definitely came away from it thinking positive. How about you, Nick?
I was just about to say we got really a little derailed in that one. Before no, you're good. Before I say it, because I have to say it while it's on my mind. Before I answer James's question, my top 3 kind of quote unquote sad endings from recent years were Avengers: Infinity War, That one
Okay.
ended on a sad note.
With the bad guy basically
With the
winning.
bad guy winning, Thanos won.
Winning. It was
No, he won. That version of Thanos won.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
give it an adjacent win. It's
No, he won. He won. Keep going.
okay. All right, fine. We'll debate later.
He
Continue.
won.
Yeah, sorry.
He won. He won. Not Thanos overall, but that Thanos, that multiverse Thanos, that version of him won. Spider-Man No Way Home, kind of a sad ending. Peter and Spider-Man are all on their own. They have no one in the world that knows who they are. It's a sad ending. And then another one. I don't know if anyone here watches anime or anything like that, but Attack on Titan.
I didn't watch AFT. That one weirds me out.
Oh,
Something about big people with no skin eating smaller people just weirds me out.
I understand it. It's a weird.
You're gonna hate my choice for the book club.
It's a very weird series. It is. I like after the first season, I had no clue what was ever going to happen ever again. But the ending of it got me thinking. It's one of those endings that like you don't fully comprehend it even after watching it.
No, and if you can get over the giant people, it is fantastic.
No,
Anyway,
that's what I
one
hear.
of the
Like,
best
everyone loves it, right?
One of the
I've
best
never heard
written
anybody
stories
like,
recently.
Oh, Attack on Titan.
I mean,
sucked.
Nick, honestly, I'm surprised you didn't pick the Karate Kid, because the Karate Kid doesn't win the tournament.
Correct.
David. Hey, David.
This upstart kid who comes in
Hey,
and
David.
cheats.
Hey,
Yes.
David. Not
Illegal
trying
kick to the face.
Hey, David and Nolan, not trying to disappoint you, but I've never seen the Karate Kid.
That's okay. I don't think it's
So
as
that's
essential
why
to it
I
as some
didn't pick
people.
it. That's why I didn't pick it.
You know what? I will say, going back to talking about downer endings with sequels, I do think the ending of Back to the Future Part 2 is one of the best movie endings of all time. When he sends Marty back and then suddenly Marty runs in and is like, I have to go back.
Yeah,
Doc is like, what?
Immediately. What?
And then end of the movie. That is like one of the best movie endings ever, I will say.
I am a huge fan, by the way, David, of number 2. Like that's by far my favorite.
I think it's honestly criminally underrated, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Back to the Future Part 2. Because
one and 2 are masterpieces. 3 is where it kind of falls off, in my opinion.
Agreed. I fell into that third movie trap for sure. But 2 is just because the Nike Air Mags, absolutely sick. Like just the shoe collector in me is just like, God, I need me a pair of those.
And the holographic Jaws 19.
Yes. The holographic Jaws 19, and then it was one of those ones that the pre-telling of the Cubs winning the World Series after
Okay, honestly, I'm saying now we're now going to schedule a deep dive in Back to the Futures because there's so much to dissect. But yes, Nick, how did you feel after ending this this book?
So since this is my second time reading it for this chat, I will say both times I felt positive about it. This time around was a little bit more different for me because again I knew the story, and like I said earlier, in that chapter when she really wanted to stay in her professor life with her kid and her husband and the dog, I was almost in tears. Like I was getting a little emotional, like just reading that, and that was bizarre for me because I'm not usually that kind of person. But yeah, I took some positivity away from it. I definitely, the first time I finished it, I wanted to give like the next person I saw like a huge hug, but you can't always do that because what if I was in King Supers and I didn't know that person? But I really did take a lot of positivity away from it. It is one of these stories where you think about things when you're reading it, like thinking about different lives you could live, like what if I was a rock star, or what if I was a professional athlete, all these different things. What if I was an actor, whatever. But yeah, I did take a lot of positivity away from it.
And last but not least, James, how did you feel after?
So yeah, I came away from it glad I read it, which is to me a win. You know, anytime you read a book, anything that you didn't even think, if you didn't think I'm glad, or like, okay, if you didn't throw it across the room or stop halfway through, it's kind of a win for me in terms of books. Overall, like I said, I thought it was more allegorical than a novel. It was, you were reading a lesson, you were reading a very obvious message. It had a point. It was not subtle, but you walked away feeling good about it. It's not one that I'll ever tout as a great American novel. It's not one I'll ever say, this was a formative work of literature for me, but I'll always look at it and think, yeah, that's a good read. I felt better having read it. And so that's a good book in my opinion. I can see why it's a New York Times bestseller or whatever it says on the cover. Like, I can see why everybody likes it. For my own taste, I like things a little deeper, a little more subtle, a little more story focused. But yeah, it was a positive read, and that's what I keep in the forefront. Like, it was a good experience. I'm glad I read it.
To your point, I will say I definitely see the kind of more simplistic feel to it. I can see how that would appeal to a broader audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like people picking it up, I do get why so many have read it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Do
Grayson,
you see why I recommended it?
Oh, yeah,
Sure.
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd recommend it too.
Sure.
I mean, Nick, that's why we led off the conversation with it.
Yeah.
Why did you recommend it? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I see why.
Because
I
of
read
one
it myself.
only one person.
No, I know because when I ran into Nick at a Barnes and Noble, and then of course on our Wizard of Oz deep dive or Wicked deep dive, Nick brought it up again. So that's why I was like, hey, let's check it out. Because if Nick feels really strongly about it, I want to see what's going on. And like everyone else has said, it's not one that I hated, and I do enjoy that I read it. And I mean, I bought the copy, so I mean, I'll probably read it at some point in the future.
I think it'd
Yeah.
be interesting to revisit in like a few months to a year, kind of like Nick did, and see what I pick up now that I know the story, and kind of maybe a little deeper what I may see.
I
think
appreciate,
too, like,
I
there's a
appreciate that,
lot.
Keegan.
There's a lot of philosophy and a lot of his ideas that I liked. So, halfway through, and I'm still have this opinion. I've committed to read a few more of his works, and I think he has a nonfiction book that I want to read too. I just want to see more about his worldview because I did like that. I liked his approach to things. I liked his observations, and I highlighted quite a bit. I read on Kindle, and I highlighted quite a bit in it. So the ideas were there, and I'm definitely going to keep visiting his work. So that's good.
I'd love to hear if you would recommend something that you check out. Let me know. I'd give it a
I will.
shot.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if anybody knows this. I didn't look it up. Is he from the UK? Is
No,
he a
I
British
I
wouldn't
don't
author?
believe so.
He just chose to set.
I
the
read
story
it.
there.
Sometimes I caught myself reading in an English accent. So
Oh, I
will be honest with you.
1000%, James.
I honestly like the narrator's voice. I heard it as Stephen Fry's voice in my head the entire time. It felt like reading it, like watching the movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It felt like just hearing Stephen Fry's voice the entire time.
because some of those turns of phrase you can't read in an American accent.
They
No,
don't
you
work,
can't. Yeah, that's every time she said crackers, like, yeah. I was like,
He was.
that is not an American term.
Yeah, I was
at
gonna
all.
say for the fact check, he was born in Sheffield.
Yep,
Sheffield.
Sheffield,
He
United
is
Kingdom
from-
in 1975.
The United
Okay.
Kingdom, Sheffield. Yeah,
Is he
Sheffield
still
Wednesdays.
there now,
I
or
have
is
no
he
idea.
moved to America? Do you know?
I don't know, but we've got Michael Caine with us here in the chat.
I
you know.
don't know. I don't
Because
know. I
the
will
way he
say. I will
wrote-
say to James's point. I actually found another one of his books, The Life Impossible.
Have you started reading it yet?
At Second Charles. I have not started reading it, but because of the fact that I liked the Midnight Library so much, when I
Sweet.
found
mean,
this,
hey, anything that supports more people buying books is A+ in my opinion.
Yeah.
And for those at home who would like to know, Matt Haig is right now living in Brighton. Yes, he is.
Brighton, UK, eh? Nice.
no, Brighton,
Alright,
Colorado.
that's
He's actually
what I
up the
mean.
street.
He could be. I don't know.
Grayson, Nick, Keegan, did you guys have any questions you would like to pose? You don't have to, but if there's
I
anything
have-
you'd like to.
I have one that I thought of.
Okay.
But Keegan, Grayson, how about you guys?
I've got one in the chamber, but if anybody else wants to go first.
Yeah, I mean, who watches The Watchmen? Oh, no, that's the wrong notes. Hold on. No, I don't.
Who watches this show?
Yeah, like what if one of her
Grayson.
regrets was like, I'm so disappointed I never became a vigilante.
My question is, who recommended this book? I'm kidding. Honestly, my question would be, if your day was like Nora's, A, would it lead you to ending it all? And B, if not, what would you do differently to deal with that kind of situation?
Heavily drink. I would not be ending it. I would not be ending it all, but I'd be having me. I call them my white girl nights. I just sit down, drink alcohol, and listen to my favorite music.
I could see Nick
And then he
definitely.
invites Diddy over.
Jesus.
No.
I could definitely
Yeah,
see him
that'd be
turning
all.
on some T Swift and getting real deep in a box of
No.
Franzia over there.
No. I am not a Swiftie. How dare you?
Whoa,
Our
Nolan,
denial says
we made a
different.
pact.
My
We made a
go-to-
pact
my
on our sports
go-to.
show not to talk about her.
It's
Yeah,
funny.
My
though,
go-to.
I
My
just
go-to.
imagine like Nick gets to go through these other lives and he finds like a perfect one, and then somebody mentions like, "Well, I thought of you, Nick, because we all know you're the biggest Taylor Swift fan in the world." And
I immediately
goes
have
through
it.
the life.
Immediately.
Immediately out, checks out. Yeah.
Immediately.
Like
Like,
everything
I
is
don't
great.
care.
He's even like, "This is it. This is paradise."
I don't care if I
And then
have
somebody
like
says that,
all the
he's out.
money, and I don't care if I have all the money in the world or nothing like that. The moment I'm known as a Swiftie, out.
Yeah.
No. So my go-to, by the way, my go-to for music for my white girl nights is the band Water Parks.
Oh, I was
That's
thinking
a good choice.
maybe, I don't know, maybe put on a little bathrobe, grab a little wine, you know what I mean? Put on a little Cradle of Filth.
Poncho cloak thing. I got that part of it.
Oh, I'm wearing a full-length cloak right now. Yeah.
Guys, this isn't about your cloaks.
The Wizard Skyrizzy is definitely rocking some wizard-ass cloak right now, all right?
What was the question?
Yeah.
If you had the day like Nora had, where you like lost your job, all that stuff at the very beginning of the book, would that lead you to ending it? And if not, what else? What would you have done differently to cope? That was the question Grayson asked.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah, what
no.
Nick said.
Yeah, I would say no because I've been there. I lost my job, ended up working next to Nick. So, I mean, life has its perks after all. So,
Why? I've had that day too, except it was split in a couple of days. But I lost a job. I went through a divorce. I lost a lot of friends. I've been through it all. But no, I would not at this point end it.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I just don't feel like what she went through was bad enough that I think bitching about it on Facebook and then killing yourself was really the answer. It seemed like mild inconveniences. I mean, people go through job loss all the time, and she was literally a retail worker. Not to bag on retail. It's fantastic. It's a great job, but I don't feel like there was really that much there. It wasn't like her parents died. It wasn't,
Well, that's because they were already dead at this point, though.
Wasn't her dad still alive?
No.
he was dead.
no, they were both.
That's right.
Her mom and her dad were dead.
The whole thing was that he was alive in like the other. Okay.
Right, she was all alone at this point.
Right.
Yep.
I
all
don't
alone,
know.
living in a.
Like I get being
Suffolk.
depressed. I totally get that. I just don't think that it was quite severe enough that I think suicide was the answer. I would have to say, at least me personally, if I have like just something awful, bad day, whatever, I'll usually, kind of log off of online and stuff, kind of disconnect from people and, throw on one of my favorite movies or like some How I Met Your Mother, just binge some episodes type thing. Eat whatever I want, get like some kind of comfort meal, something to be like, I deserve this. And just kind of pamper myself for a day or two and be like, all right, every day you spend just depressed doing nothing is just wasting your own time. So it's usually, I give myself usually like a day to get over it, whatever happens, and then be like, all right, how can we move forward from whatever it is?
So I was like, so I know like a little bit of the validity of like trying to like find your like comfort stuff, as far as like your like movies and shows go and things like that. But some people say that you should actually do the opposite, and watch something that like you don't want to watch, or like something that like sucks or generally isn't great. That way, like if you aren't like in a great space, you're not like negatively associating like that negative stuff like with stuff that you do like.
I don't have that problem.
There is a point to that.
I was like, that's an interesting take. Like, I was like, oh man, when you're feeling like kind of down or like not really great or whatever, I was like, yeah, because I don't want those, those feelings associated with my favorite show. Like, I only want to be happy when I watch this. So I was like, okay, I can kind of see it from that point.
So if
So
you
you-
feel bad, go watch the Serbian film, and your life will just improve from there.
Right.
I'd say,
I
yeah,
that
that
might
might-
that might make it a little bit worse.
I watch
Yeah.
Keeping Up with the Kardashians just because that's trash, just absolute trash television.
That would just make me more depressed knowing that I'm in my situation and
And
they're
they're
millionaires.
millionaires because they're just absolute airheads. Yeah, I know. I know. I ask that question frequently. 2 questions actually. Who is this made for, and why are they famous? Like these no talent asshats. Like I don't understand.
So
Hey, Nolan, someday somebody's going to be saying that about us.
hey Nolan, real quick to your
Fingers.
point, there is, going back to psychology for a second, there is actually something in psychology with that. It's called the mood congruence effect, and then you, like, if you listen to a certain song and like eat a cookie or something like that, you're gonna think about that song every time you eat the cookie, or and vice versa. So there is mood congruence effect.
Mood congruence, like some validity to that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I was like, because I read that somewhere and I was like, you know what, that actually kind of like makes sense. Like it just, I don't want to ruin one of my favorite shows or whatever. You know what I mean? Like for as much like comfort as it would bring me during something like that. But yeah, I guess overall to answer your question though, I have a huge live, laugh, toaster bath mentality. No,
Fair
yeah,
enough.
it's one of those things. Like I relatively agree with everybody else though. It's there's not enough there for you to go ahead and hit the the permanent eject button.
I want that as like a wall decoration. Live, laugh, toaster
You can
bath.
actually get a bath bomb that says that.
Well, there's that, or I'll make you some stickers, Bert. You can put those everywhere. You can put it on your sweet liquid death water bottle because that just
Thank
goes
you.
so well together. Live,
I
laugh,
will.
toaster bath with liquid death. I love it. Literally liquid death. But anyways, no, for the most part though, I don't agree with her. Like I just, with everybody else, like it's like, dude, there wasn't enough there really to like end it, to feel
Yeah.
that way. And it's one of those ones that like, I don't know, I get it. It's like for the story or whatever, right? To like get in that like headspace or that the library, if you will.
Has everybody answered Grayson's question, by the way?
I think James, have you answered yet?
It's just along with everybody else. I will say that, in lines of her being depressed and everything, the author really seems to have a problem with antidepressants. Like he mentions it quite a few times.
Oh, like the
Specific
Oh,
drugs.
no,
yeah,
I
like
was on
specifically
antidepressants.
Flexatil or whatever, Flexatil or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's always in a disparaging light. And I'm not a super advocate of it, but I'm also not. I think they have their benefits for some folks, and I'm like, this guy
Yeah.
clearly has had bad experience and has worked that in quite a few times,
That's
because right before she kills herself, she's like, there's the sertraline. She's like, she would cry about her cat, but she was on sertraline, and it was like, well, I take sertraline and I still cry when my dog died. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think
emotions are
it
so
felt
emotions.
like mental illness written about by somebody who doesn't have them.
Who doesn't? Yeah, who's never really struggled with it.
That's kind of
or who's like,
and
you don't need medicine, just smile more and be in the sun. And it's like,
right. I mean,
okay.
like I personally haven't gone through any of those challenges, so I wouldn't write about it. Like it's not something I know about, so I would not have brought it up nearly as prevalently as he did.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
if that would just make you like a writer, just like all the other writers these days, just writing lots of stuff that they don't know about or whatever. It's fine. You fit right in.
I feel like write what you know is very strong, and then thoroughly research what you don't know if you have to add it. But if you can find another way to do it in a way that speaks more to your genuine style, I feel like that's usually the better way to go personally.
I mean, honestly, to James's point, I think we've brought it up continuously throughout this. I think he had a point. There was either something that happened in his personal life, or he just keeps seeing like news about antidepressants or people killing themselves or something else going on, to where he wants to write this story that says, that tries to convince you of alternative methods and to keep sticking around. And it's not really anything that like a lot of people that haven't been in those places don't understand how far down that hole you can go. And that's honestly why I feel like it is a little bit more surfacey level, like, like too much broth, not enough meat to actually deal with the fact that it is a contest to get into a place where you have changed your point of view to get yourself out of that kind of mentality.
So just in my opinion, again, as doing writing myself, I do kind of think that how he brings it up very frequently in the different lives, I think that was his way possibly of showing and not telling, trying to say that that was Nora's way of gauging if that life was happy, if the Nora of that life was on depression pills or not, of if they were depressed or not, at least as a surface level way of being able to tell. So
Right.
I think that's kind of why when she would like find out she had pills, she'd be upset because she'd be like, oh, obviously this Nora is not happy with her life.
Right.
Is what I think that's what he was going with, but it
Right,
went a little
right.
off the rails of just saying that, in my opinion. So I would try to find
Execution,
another
yeah.
way. Yeah, it was an interesting concept, and I get what he was doing without outright being like, you're depressed. But yeah, it just came off as somebody that was very antipsychotics.
But clearly she's just, depressed everywhere. She ain't happy ever.
I mean,
You just gotta give it one
she
more
wouldn't have been
go,
in the
mate.
library without
Nora
being
is just
depressed.
she's just an unhappy lady everywhere.
Pretty much. But yeah, Nick, did you have your wonderful question?
I did. I have my question, and it's a pretty short, simple one too.
Why do you hate me?
No, that's not a short,
Is that one
simple
for
one at
me
all.
or
That's not a short, simple answer
long-
at
how
all.
long
That's
do I got?
just. Can you, like, goddamn, man, leave me alone. I don't even know people. Anyway, no. Who would be your midnight library person?
Like the librarian?
Nora had Mrs. Elm. Hugo had his uncle. Who would be your person?
All right, I'll go first.
say-
I think it would be
Fine.
my
Go
Papu.
first.
I didn't see. No, I was just gonna say I think it would be my Papu because I had this weird dream one time after he passed, where I went to like, you know how like Verizon stores are set up and they're all kind of like white and everything, and they have like phones here and there, or whatever, T-Mobile, whatever. But it was like because he worked with alcohol and like would pick barrels and distill them and then sell them, package them. So I went in there and he was working. He's like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in a long time." Blah blah. And just kind of talking about how life was and where life would go. So you saying that just reminded me of that dream. So that would probably be who it would be.
James, go ahead. Before you
Before I
were
was
so rudely
interrupted.
cut you off.
I mean, I don't even know why I'm here sometimes, Keegan, honestly. Mine would probably be my great grandfather. I got into genealogy maybe about 15 years ago, and it was really wanting to find out more about him and this connection I felt with him. So I've always felt this like spiritual connection with my great grandfather, even though I never met him. And I just feel like that would be my conduit to the inexplicable, to the mystic.
Okay.
What, was he friends with Gregor Mendel?
Yeah, how'd you know that?
I don't know. I'm just curious.
He's a wizard.
The wizard Skyrizzy knows all.
Also, Keegan lied on his answer. His would have been Brushy Bill.
If it was like purgatory, not that would be
The
awful.
real Billy the Kid.
Oh no.
All right, guys, y'all have a good one.
It would be Brushy Bill, and the whole time he's a psychic and a flat earther, and I'm just like, oh my god, like where did I go wrong with my life?
What happened?
All right, Wizard Sky Rizzy, who would it be?
For me, it's funny because I thought about this because I was gonna ask earlier too. So like, glad you brought it back up because my ADD brain freaking doesn't remember some stuff sometimes. But no, I thought about it. It's for me. It actually would have been my favorite teacher from high school. It's one of those things that she taught me a lot. She was like a super nice lady, and she unfortunately passed away from breast cancer. But it's definitely her. Like I see her as the mentor and the person that would show up like that to like kind of really help you along or like teach you something kind of about yourself, right? But in like that good like mentory kind of way. So yeah, that would be mine.
So I feel like an asshole saying this answer. And I am being genuine here. Like, there's a lot of people I've had great connections with, a lot of, mentor-ish and things. But if I truly had to say who I really think it would be there, that would be the biggest impact on me in teaching me something and making me like take it seriously, it would probably be myself.
Interesting.
I just feel like that would be the biggest like shock slash I have to really listen to this kind of thing, is if it was basically a version of myself being like, yeah, we're fucked. You better fix this.
Would you be like you are now, or would you be like an older version or a younger version?
It'd probably be exactly me. Or you know what? No, because I know me, I would fluctuate ages just to fuck with myself.
Just to, I mean, that's a pretty good answer too, though. Like, yeah.
But I feel like out of all the options, that's the one that I would be like, that would shock me to my core and be like, okay, it's game time. Like it would be myself.
Like, here's David as a baby. What is the lesson? That I gotta take care of myself. Damn it! Like,
no, the baby me would be like, what's his name in Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Baby Huey or Herman.
Yeah. Just oh geez. Whew. Grayson?
I'm glad David broke off the ice with that one, because honestly, I kind of feel the same. If I was to pick somebody other than myself, it would probably be my dad or my uncle on my mom's side. But if it's somebody who's been there for you, somebody who's forced you to not only like forced you to be better, but also take care of yourself in situations that were tough, that were hard to deal with, and when you had nobody else, it would probably be myself. The person that I've had to rely on and the person that's been there for me through everything that I've had to go through has been myself. So it'd probably be somebody that I would see, but it'd be more like an idealized version of myself that I'd want to listen to.
Would you look a lot like what's his face? No, never mind. Come back to me. I can do better.
But it'd be something where it's like seeing the end results of like, where I could be, them talking to me and being like, hey man, you made a bad choice. It is what it is. If you want to live these other lives, they're here to show you what could be. But if not, dust your feet off and get back out there, because it ain't that bad.
Jeff Goldblum. There it is. Would you have a Jeff Goldblum version of yourself?
Oh, 100% I would. I mean, with this hair, how could I not? Are you kidding me?
Sounds amazing.
No Arnie Schwarzenegger.
Keegan, this is not the time or the place.
Keegan, stop.
No, I mean, I'll do it. I need to stop being so super, bringing it down. We'll bring it back up a little bit, but
it has been 0 days since he's done those impressions.
Yes, but is it funny? No. Yeah, no. To be as realistic, I'd probably pick myself as well. But if I'm forced to hand twisted behind my back, I'd probably pick my dad, because he was the only other person that actually forced me to saw what I was capable of, constantly tried to remind me the best as he could with what he had and the way he was also raised, and he held me to a higher standard than everybody else did while still seeing what I had to offer. So I think if it was somebody other than myself, it would be my dad.
Awesome. And what about you, Nick?
Well, thanks for David and Grayson's more realistic and also depressing answers that made me realize that it would also probably be myself, because like I mentioned earlier, I've been, by myself for the last 7 years. I've brought myself up from down times, but if I had to, between myself, there's 2 other people I would think of. One be my old boss, Jim, at Master Magnetics, because he was a great mentor for me. He's been a great mentor for me for the last 6 years or so. And then another one would be my best friend from high school. His name is Aaron. He unfortunately passed away from a drug overdose a couple years ago, but he was there for me during dark times back then, and he was the one person I could go to talk about anything almost. So, yeah.
Is it too late for me to change my answer to Christoph Waltz?
See,
feel
it couldn't be him for me, or I would just stay at the airport talking to him.
I feel like he would teach me something.
That'd
You know
be
what I mean?
you.
Like,
Well, Keegan, unless you have a question, do you want to kind of lead into our wrap up and our final votes, our final scores?
Yeah, so why don't we pass it off to Nick and just get Nick, what are your kind of final thoughts, your rating, and why you kind of lean that way for your rating as far as this one?
So yeah, and as we discussed, it's not the perfect story. It's not. There's a certain points of contention that we all had. I would give this probably like a 7.5 out of 10. I do genuinely enjoy this book. I loved reading it a second time. I might read it a third time in the future. We'll see. But it is one of those books that ever since I read it the first time, I do try to recommend it to people I think will enjoy it.
All right, Grayson, what about you?
Do you want to get a couple other positive reviews in before you get mine in, or
No, go with
no.
it.
No,
rip the Band-Aid off.
I want to end on a positive note. Fuck you, Grayson.
hey, don't come out swinging at me all hostile.
You set this up. You set this up yourself.
All right, well, I'll lead off with my overall rating. Honestly, I'd probably give it a 6.7 out of 10. It's a serviceable book. It's an enjoyable book. I can't say it's bad by any means. Every author has their quirks, the way they tell a story, just the way they think, the way they articulate, the way they just get their points across. I feel like the setup was very surface level, as kind of illustrated with my question to you guys, but it's very entry level for anybody who's willing to open their mind to contemplate their lives, see where they can improve, and kind of take a deeper look at who's making the choices, so to speak, and see if it's somebody who they really like or if it's somebody who they need to be willing to put in the work to do the change with. So I think if this is like if this ends up being like a book for a lot of people that love where this kind of like led them mentally, fantastic. But one of the gripes that I have with it, I've already voiced. I feel like it's a book for those that hit the gym on January 1 and they're done by January 7th. It feels good. You feel like you started a whole journey. You feel like you're making the changes, but it's all very surface level because it doesn't deal with the reality of how hard it is to make those personal changes to not only be a better version of yourself, but the length of time that it takes in order to do that. And with how quickly it turned through everything, I understand like the point he was getting across is very parabolic. It's very allegorical. It's very symbolic in a lot of its conveyances, but it's just, I feel like it is so high on the ideas of what it's trying to get across, and he thinks it's doing it so well, it kind of gets lost in its own juice, so to speak. So it does kind of get it. You kind of pick up, at least I picked up on that a little bit, and it took down some of those points for me. So I did not enjoy the book as much, but I think a lot of people definitely will.
All right, James.
I want to say I'm sorry for the hostility, Grayson. I just want to say that.
I appreciate that.
James, what about you?
I do, I'm an aspiring author myself. I've done some short fiction and stuff, but I would love to write a novel at some point. So if we were judging it just on a writing aspect and, literary aspects, I'd give it like a 4. But the message and the lesson, because I'm not opposed to allegory, I'm not opposed to symbolic writing, I'd give it a 7. And I think it actually is an asset for what it is, that it's so easily readable, because that makes it easily rereadable. So anytime you feel like you want to revisit the messages, or that you need to encounter them again, you've lost your way, and you remember that this helped you, it's easy to come back to because it's so easily readable and so shallow, to use that term in a positive light. But yeah, I'd give it a 7. It was a good experience. I'm glad I read it. I don't have any really bad feelings towards it.
All right, David, what about you?
I do think a lot of what I would say, I've already said throughout the past couple hours, so I'm not going to repeat all of that. I will agree with James. If I was judging just off of writing style and themes, characterization, all of that, probably on the lower end, 3 or 4. But it did, again, pull up some interesting things. It made me think, and that's not something that every story does. So overall, I think I'm going to go with a solid 6 for this one.
And for me, don't worry, Nolan, I got a plan for you. But for me, I just didn't want you to think I had forgotten. But for me, as far as like the writing style, because like James and David, I write a lot. I enjoy doing it. I think one thing I didn't touch upon was just the structure of the chapters, and that kind of got to me. I wish
Very
they
weird.
they weren't so short, and I wish they were more just in line with the life length. Because some of them were, but then other ones, some lives were like 6 chapters, while others were like 2 sentences, you know. And so I just wish each chapter was just one life. I would have liked it better that way. But overall, I was contemplating between a 6 and a 7, so I'll just go 6.5 to cut it in even. It's not one that I hated. I liked where it was going. Obviously, we've reflected on it and been able to talk about it for 2 hours, so it has a good message at the heart of it, because if it wasn't there, we wouldn't be here for 2 hours. We would have been able to wrap it up in 20, 30 minutes and call it a day. So I think obviously there's some substance there. There's quite a bit of people that have read it and really enjoyed it. I think when me and David looked it up, there was like 1 million, 2 million rating on.
It was a lot. And they were all pretty positive.
Yeah. So obviously super popular, super easy to get into for a lot of people. And I think at the end of the day, that's what's important too, is how easy is it for people to read. And I know this is something I've talked to James about with the Billy the Kid Brushy Bill stuff. Is the Brushy Bill stuff much easier to process than the really hard textbooky stuff of Billy the Kid? And I think maybe that's why things lean that way.
I did want to add real quick, I did agree very much with what Grayson said about how people who start their resolutions, they're done with the gym in like a week. I can definitely see how this is like the favorite book of people who don't read.
Interesting.
Well, and then to round it off with the Wizard Skyrizzy Nolan. But besides just giving us obviously the rating and everything and why, at the end of it, why don't you let people know what next month's book is going to be?
Can do. Okay. So to start off with this one, that sentiment is wild, David, of just like, this is somebody's favorite book that like doesn't read.
I feel almost insulted. Damn.
Well, I think it's because he didn't know that you could read. This is why he says that. Yeah. But no, at
We're
the same
very
time,
proud of you.
No, but it's one of those things that for me, like I'm not a writer like most of these guys, and if I am writing something, it's not like a book. It's more of television and movies, so not quite the same thing. Along the same lines, but not quite. So I didn't really have the same like kind of issues, I guess, with the writing style and everything that everyone else has. So like I rather enjoyed it. It made me think about things. Kind of had a little reflection there. So like overall, I think I'd give it probably like a 6.5, 7 for me, just because it was a relatively positive like message, right? Because it really was a heavy message book, but at the same time, it kind of made you think. It made you feel some things every once in a while. So overall, it's one of those ones that like it's a pretty positive like message and a positive book for most people. So I can't hate on it too hard, right? Because life is a learning game, and that's essentially what this book is about. Is just you got to learn some things. You got to learn how to go through things, or learn how to let things go, or whatever it is that that might be plaguing you in your life. And just sometimes you got to learn that it's the grass isn't always greener. I was one of those ones that I felt like just from the first story that she was in or whatever, I was like, oh yeah, this feels like the grass isn't always greener type of situation immediately. But overall, like I said, great message, decent book. So yeah, 6.5, 7.
Okay, hold on. Before you announce the next month.
Oh, okay.
We can officially now, this is the end of The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Our official score, all tallied up average, is a 6.5, which I think is very respectable.
That's a decent, yeah.
I would
Decent
like to
score.
thank Nick for bringing this to us, because I probably never would have read this without the suggestion, and I do think my life is enriched by having this story in it. So that is
Agreed.
our official Society of Main Characters score for this book. And now, the Wizard Sky Rizzy, if you would like to tell us what amazing world we'll be going into next.
I would. So the amazing world that we would be going into next is the book known as the Project Hail Mary. Good Lord. Come on, get it together.
Put it in front of you.
I've
I
actually
was
I've
so
actually been
in
I've
with
actually
like
been
Making it
retro-
disappear.
Guys, stand up, stand up, stand
Oh,
up.
here we go. Yes. The full length cloak. I was not kidding about. So the book known as Project Hail Mary from Andy Weir. He is also the guy that wrote The Martian, and he has another book known as Artemis is his second book, but this is his third one. And I think this will be a little bit of a better read for us than the Martian that you've probably seen the movie and or maybe possibly also read the book. But it's one that I feel like a lot of people haven't read it, and it's science fictiony and paranormally, so it's like right up literally everybody's alley here. Should find it rather enjoyable.
Nice.
So this will be the second time reading it for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it the first time. I really do like Andy Weir and his writing style, and the way he goes about things. So I believe that we're gonna have a pretty good time with next month's book.
I mean, if a wizard pops out and says, "Hey, you should read this," usually it's a good idea to check it out.
I think it's usually a pretty good idea to check it out, right? So yeah, so that's what it's going to be. It's going to be Project Hail Mary, and yeah, should be a great time for us to discuss. I'm excited to see everybody's viewpoints, because I have a lot of ideas and a lot of viewpoints on this one
Nice.
that I haven't really got to discuss or share with a lot of people, because not a lot of people have read it. So I'm excited to read it and kind of see what everybody feels about it, especially with the gentleman that I have here, and the vast amount of knowledge and or experiences. So this should be super fun.
And Keegan, when roughly will the discussion about this book be taking place?
Usually we're going to try to do it on the first Monday. So probably that first Monday in March. We'll definitely let you guys know. But at least that's
So
kind of what we,
potentially the third.
yeah, because guess what? Next month is almost the same, because this month's shorter. So that evens out when days fall on. Yeah, so join us, of course, next month to talk about that. Now, Grayson's been hard at work at building something, like we kind of teased at the beginning. Grayson, where can people come and discuss with us more if they want?
So
I'll be right back, guys.
if you all are looking to engage more with us, engage with yourselves, or to pitch ideas, or where if you want to start putting your voice into any sort of videos, if we that we start putting forward, whether that be pop culture events or get-togethers or anything like that, we do have a Discord server that is just for you guys. And obviously we'll be there too. Everybody that you see here will be, on that server, and be able to contribute and be a part of it. So if this is that's something you guys want to do, or if you want to just add another server to your Discord, we'll have it linked down below.
And anybody who would like to say anything about this book or the next one, definitely feel free to drop us some comments or jump in the Discord and suggest some questions. We'll try to talk about them on air if anybody's got anything they'd like to add or ask us about either one.
Yeah, we'll have more than 2 questions written down. Did you like it?
I had more than 2.
He has 3. Okay.
Oh, look.
I had 3.5. I
It
was
was-
starting to write one. I kind of got distracted.
Did you read the book?
Yeah.
Did you really read the book?
Are you sure
You sure you read the book? Yeah.
And then
That's
I opened
fantastic.
the dictionary to find another way to say it, and I fell asleep, so I couldn't get a 4th one down, unfortunately.
Happens. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be back here on the Society of Main Characters. We will have an exclusive episode, most likely talking a movie trailer. So stay tuned for that, only on the Society of Main Characters. But like we've talked about, it's a coming together of many different channels. So we're going to give everyone kind of a time here to talk about what channel they do and where you can find them, and any big events or anything that they want to tell you about. So Nick, where can people find you and anything you want to tell them?
I mean, my social media, like Instagram and TikTok, are all just Sir Burgles. That's I don't have anything going on right now, other than I'm waiting for February 15th to come around so I can buy myself a pair of Air Jordan 1s originals.
Which ones?
Exciting.
The original, like they're re-releasing the 1985.
Just the OGs,
model.
huh?
The OGs.
The OG.
There's a whole movie about those.
Yeah, the OG of OGists. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But no, I don't have anything else going on at this moment in time. And actually, the Wizard Sky Rizzy, I've actually been recommended the Project Hail Mary book, so I am looking forward to reading that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty solid. And I'm excited. You guys are pretty excited to read it as well.
Yeah, no, always good for a good recommendation. And, a couple of us have said it. Some of these books are books that I might not have picked up, and that's what I look forward to the most is, dipping my toes in books that, in waters I wouldn't have before. Grayson, what about you? Any special things people should be on the lookout for?
Yes. So I know I promised a Nosferatu review. That was before my files got corrupted and I had to reshoot the whole thing again. But hey, nothing's a better teacher than having to redo everything. So you'll get a better, hopefully more improved Nosferatu review this weekend. So that's pretty much what's coming forward. But then we're going to be looking at Companion this weekend and then as well. So I'll try to release something short on that. But other than that, look out for a possible How I Met Your Mother deep dive with some of the gents here. So,
when was I going to be informed on that?
Right. I didn't know about that till tonight. So this is your information right now, Nick.
Sounds like a great time right there, Big Fudge. I love it. All right.
Yes, I am Big Fudge James, please. Right.
I have watched that show so many times. I'm ready.
You don't understand how many times I've said "come again" for Big Fudge, and no one knows what the hell I'm talking about. Upsets me so much. Yeah.
Did you see they're doing an official rewatch with Josh Radnor and the creator?
What?
Yeah.
It's a podcast starting in March called How We Made Your Mother.
Oh
yeah.
Go.
I have some thoughts on that, mainly because I'm surprised that Josh Radnor's doing it.
Wait, why are you surprised though?
We can save that for another episode, guys.
Yeah, we'll save that for the How I Met Your Mother discussion.
Right. Go ahead, James.
Well, I'm the host of a podcast, YouTube show called Chasing Billy. We explore just about anything related to Billy the Kid. We're all obsessed with it, and we love history. I'm on the board of directors for a nonprofit called Billy the Kid's Historical Coalition. We go around and try to preserve historical sites, mark graves that haven't been marked, that kind of thing. And but it's also cool, in my talks with Keegan, I like to talk about things outside of Billy world, and so it's cool to get the opportunity to do this kind of stuff. And this was my first time hanging with most of you guys, and it's cool to meet you and a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, dude, I've loved having you. I hope you'll come back.
Absolutely.
If you need us to, we'll kick Nick out so you can, if it'll make you feel more comfortable.
Keegan told me that was already going to happen. So,
yo, what the fuck?
No, James.
Why am I the fucking butt of this joke? I don't understand. I don't know James. I don't know Sky Wizard Rizzy. What the
Nick, next week it's gonna be
All of
Nolan.
you.
This is how it works. Nolan's gonna be the joke guy because he picked the book.
No, see, next week we're gonna be
why
like,
me?
Nolan, this was great. Good job, Nolan.
Next month. Oh man, this is such a good book. I give this a 10 out of 10. I don't know why this isn't anybody's favorite book.
The Susan Cain of books.
Midnight Library. You're kind of stupid for thinking this is your favorite.
Also, James, you guys also are working on a event coming up in September, right?
absolutely. In Lincoln, New Mexico, it's going to be a good time. Kind of just have authors and speakers there and music and everything. I play music, so might bring my band down. Who knows?
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, no, looking forward to that one. Nolan, what about you? Any kind of spooks we should be on the lookout for?
No, realistically, just the regular stuff kind of going on, especially here lately. Just still trying to get the editing and the effects for those Ghostbuster episodes. But it is one of those things that, with that being said, me and Aaron have been doing a lot of work towards like future episodes of like shooting them and stuff. So we've got some stuff like prepped and things are running, and it should be a pretty good time in the near future. But until then, it's one of those things that you can watch some of my stuff on YouTube at Ghostbusters TXRRT is the channel name. And then you can find us also on Instagram at Ghostbusters TX. And that'll be some of our stuff. You get to watch some of our fan made stuff, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And realistically, we just want to be out here and entertain people, have a good time. Yeah, just overall, just have a lot of fun doing stuff that we love, you know.
David, what about you and the adventures?
Yes, so Abnormal Voyages will be back on track. We are bringing our new episode out on February 8th, which will be this coming Saturday. So tune in for that. Should be something awesome. And then here with Society of Main Characters, we are going to have the links for everything that everybody has said below, not only this video, but the next one on that channel as well. We will also have this video up by the end of the week as an archive, so you can watch it whenever you want. And as Keegan mentioned, stay tuned there for a fantastic video later on this week as well. And what about you, Keegan? Anything going on with Cool's Paranormal Studios?
I mean, yeah, there was supposed to be a Tamaraptor video, but I may or may not have gotten sidetracked in a museum for an entire day. So that was my fault.
That'll happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Look how they butchered my boy. No, but the Tamaraptor video will be coming up at some point. I'm pretty excited about that just because it was kind of happenstance that we were discussing the dinosaurs, the Bahariya formation, and then they described one. So kind of just happy coincidence. We also have a Best Burger episode coming out Friday. So check that one out. And I know Grayson and me are going to kind of start working on that Pat Garrett video that we want to work on, or I want to work on. He's going to help lend his voice talent to Pat, since he helped play Pat in live action and kill Jeremy live for us in a canyon.
Buttery and silky smooth, baby.
But no, I'm excited for that. I'm not sure. I'm trying to get it out for the end of the month. We'll see. It might be an early March video, but it is going to be coming out. So stay tuned for that. But like David said, all of our channels, any description you need, any socials, will be in the description below. So
along with the link to join the Discord.
Yes, as well as the Discord will be there, so you can come talk with us. Just, tell us your feelings on the book. Tell us books or movies we should talk about. Tell us why we were wrong and how we reviewed it. I mean, whatever you want to tell us, go there. We can't wait to hear from you. And like I said, I hope that's.
I just remember we're more right than you.
We are the main characters.
We would love anybody who would like to read Project Hail Mary and kind of chip in with us on the next one. Let us know. We'd love for you to read along with us and give us some discussion on that. But I think that's about it, unless anybody's got anything else to add for tonight.
Just one thing, to help the numbers. Taylor Swift is pregnant with Travis Kelce's baby. Sorry.
I heard that. Not only that, I heard the baby's performing at halftime of the Super Bowl this weekend.
I heard the same thing.
Is your source Bob?
Maybe.
You know him too?
I can't disclose that information. He is protected.
And you know what's absolutely crazy? I literally just got a text, Keegan, from Aaron, asking if I want to come down on Wednesday because Mike is ready to finish the edits. So it's one of those things that episode might actually be out before the end of the week, which would be absolutely fantastic to drop our stuff soon, because this episode was a lot of fun to make. It's one of those things that if you guys have never, if you've ever wanted to do acting, you should just go and try. Go and try. Go be part of something. Do it. It's a ton of fun. Especially if you find the right people, or you really enjoy something that you're working on. It's a really great time. So for those out there, just who've ever had the idea or thought, just do it. Just
don't let it be one of your regrets in the midnight library.
Huh?
There is one thing.
One of your regrets in the library.
Right.
There is one thing I want to push here. Go listen to the song "Half Horse, Half Man" by OCP.
So great. Such a great song.
It's a bop.
Good choice, Bert. It really is. It's such a good song for such a goofy
my
subject matter.
my buddy sent it to me, and we discussed, and we're like, we want everybody in the world to hear this at least once. So
All right,
that's
well,
why I
Nick-
was like, I have to press it now.
All right, 1086 that, Nick, right now.
Keegan,
All right,
And
well,
this is
I
the
know-
last thing you
Keegan-
can book talk.
Keegan,
thank
I know
you,
where
thank
I
you
know where
guys
you work.
for all joining us today in the society. Thank you for all being the main characters that we all know and love. Stay tuned for Cool's Paranormal Studios, where we're going to be doing our Goosebumps episodes. We'll continue there later this week. We're about halfway through the series now, so things are starting to get spooky over there. And we will see you all over this multiverse of YouTube channels. And until then, have a wonderful night.
Later.